Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 14 of What If the Transformers Crash Landed in Code Geass. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. The Sword in the Stone. Rai sat on a chair in the medical bay, completely shirtless, squeezing the fingers of his robotic prosthetic that replaced his left arm. The arm itself was rather sleek and made from a black metal that it seemed almost like a thin armored glove upon first glance. Alright, dexterity seems to be normal. Nina said as she looked at the monitor that wirelessly scanned Rai's new appendage. How are you feeling, Rai? Honestly, this doesn't feel all that different from my regular arm. Rai said. I can feel it the same way. He then touched the arm itself. But I can't feel anything that touches it from the outside. That arm is wired directly to your nervous system. Nina explained. So, it should function like before, but the lack of outer senses can't be helped. I'm sorry. It's better than nothing though, thanks for your help, Nina. Rai smiled. Well, I think it looks really cool. Rai said as he, Shirley, Nunnally and Millie were all present, the blonde holding Arthur in her arms. Does it got one of those fancy palm repulsor blasts like superheroes got? What about a cool arm blade like Lelouch's armor? Or hey, how about it converts into an Enegron blaster like the Autobots? It wouldn't work. Ratchet spoke up as he tended to Bulkhead, Wheeljack, and Warpath, the latter having a new cannon installed into his chest. The human brain wouldn't be able to keep up with the transformation unless the brain itself were to be modified. Yeah, I'd prefer to keep my brain the way it is. Already got enough trauma up there. Rai said, trying to instill a joke, but that did earn a wince from most people present, especially Shirley and Nunnally. Are you sure you're okay, Rai? Shirley asked. Is there anything that you need? Other than my nightmare being back in shape again, I think I'm good. Rai said as Nina finished the testing, and he stood up straight. You mean you still want to get back out there? Millie questioned in surprise as she set Arthur down, who went over to Rai and purred as he brushed himself against his leg. As soon as possible, Rai stated firmly, putting his jacket on. I'm a Black Knight, one of the best pilots in this little rebellion. I have to get back out there and help finish this. Only after you are officially cleared. Ratchet insisted. Same for the rest of you. He looked toward the three Autobots. Wheeljack may be ready for combat soon, the most he needed were replacement limbs. You make it sound so easy, Doc. Wheeljack replied. Rai's been going through his therapy longer. Because human and Cybertronian biology are completely different. Ratchet told him. Combining organic material with technology is a delicate process, as opposed to our own metallic frames. Warpath still needs to properly test his weapons, and Bulkhead has to regain his full range of motion. To put emphasis on that, when Bulkhead attempted to stand, he almost lost his footing and had to stabilize himself by putting his hands on his knees. Yeah, think I might be out of it a while too. He then looked to his partner with a smile. Well, at least you won't be alone, kid. And when we're back up and ready, we'll make even bigger explosions to make up for all the battles that we missed. Warpath added. Rai chuckled briefly but looked down slightly in disappointment. He then saw Nunnally grab his robotic hand and look at him in the eyes. Rai, you said it yourself that you're one of our best pilots, and that's all the more reason for you to rest. If you go out there now before you're ready, we risk losing you for good this time. We can't afford that, I can't afford that. I know, you don't have to explain it to me. Rai assured, but I don't have to like it. Shirley then came up to him and wrapped her arms around him. Don't worry, I trust that Nina, Ratchet, and everyone know what they're doing, and you should too. You'll be back in a nightmare in no time. Though a part of Shirley didn't want Rai getting into a nightmare and risk his life again, she knew that not only she couldn't stop him, Lelouch and Optimus needed him on the front lines, the whole world needed him. So, she would support him 100%. And in the meantime, we'll keep you company. Millie assured. All of you. She looked towards the three recovering Autobots. And when you guys are back on your feet, you can deck Megatron across the face. Rivals pumped his fist. Got that right. Bulkhead agreed. Thanks guys, you're the best. Rai smiled before looking to his girlfriend. You especially. She smiled back before kissing him on the cheek. Are we sure about this? Ogi asked as he, Alita 1, Bumblebee, Ultra Magnus, Ironhide, Cornelia, Euphemia, Tamaki, RC, Colin, and Suzaku, along with several others, stood outside on the empty landing pad where they saw the operational Shinkiro facing Optimus Prime, who currently had the Sky Boom shield equipped to his left arm. Seems a little extreme. We need to test whether or not the Sky Boom shield can be of aid to our cause, and this is the best way. Ultra Magnus said. It seems kinda overkill though, not to mention dangerous. Euphemia replied. What if Optimus gets hurt? If this shield is truly as powerful as we believe it to be, then I don't see any reason to be too worried. Cornelia said to her sister. We're shooting Optimus right now. Colin stated. I know the big guy can probably take it, but come on. This is nuts. The Sky Boom shield can only be fully activated when wielded by a Prime, and Optimus is the only one available right now. It's useless to everyone else. RC said. I don't like it either, Colin, but I think this may be our best approach. Suzaku added. Hey, come on guys, why so gloom and doom? Tamaki brushed off. This is Optimus freaking Prime. If he can lay down the smackdown on old Mega Jerk, he can take whatever we can throw at him. Bumblebee agreed with Tamaki as he gave a single nod. If you say so, Ogi sounded unsure as they kept their distance and watched the testing take place. Don't worry, Alita 1 said in a humorous tone. Worst case scenario, he can just dodge. You make it sound so easy, Colin muttered. But he has dodged energy blasts before, so it's not impossible. Meanwhile, Lloyd, Rakshata, and Cecile were watching and recording everything from a nearby tower. We finally get a chance to see what these so-called relics of the Primes are capable of. I'm actually quite ecstatic. The Shinkiro's chest-mounted cannon is probably the most powerful weapon we've developed thus far. If this fancy shield can actually block it, I'll probably have to start believing in all this alien divinity stuff. Rakshata added. We're about to see for ourselves. Cecile said, looking concerned herself. Lelouch primed the Shinkiro's main weapon and set it to full power. Everything's ready. Optimus. The leader of the Autobots stood his ground and placed the shield in front of him. Ready. Taking a deep breath, Lelouch activated the Shinkiro's central cannon at maximum power. The laser shot straight from his Black Nightmare toward the last of the Primes. Right before the beam struck, however, the Sky Boom shield began to radiate a bright blue aura around itself, before it suddenly expanded to project a bright blue barrier around Optimus. The second the beam struck, it broke apart and various stray blasts were shot upward, where it exploded in midair. Everyone watching had to step back and cover their faces from the bright light, with the Autobots standing in front of their human comrades to protect them from any potential shockwave. The trio of scientists watched in amazement as they recorded every detail. Lelouch stopped the weapon when he saw the Shinkiro's power level drain quickly. He deactivated his nightmare, quickly opened the cockpit, and looked with concern to see whether or not Optimus was alright. The smoke quickly began to clear, revealing Optimus hadn't taken any damage whatsoever as he held the shield up proudly, still glowing with its blue aura before it dissipated. Lelouch, as well as Colin, Ogi, Suzaku, Tamaki, Euphemia, Cornelia all looked in such awe and surprise, as did Bumblebee and RC, while Ironhide, Alita 1, and Ultra Magnus shared knowing smirks with one another. The shield took the blast like it was nothing. Lelouch wouldn't believe if he didn't see it with his own eyes. Is this really the power of the Primes? He looked to see Optimus smiling in assurance and giving a nod, causing Lelouch to smile as well. Oh my, Lloyd's smile turned into an ecstatic grin. Oh my, just, oh my. The Shinkiro's weapon just bounced off the shield like water on stone. Rakshata looked more than a little excited herself. Readings indicate that Optimus himself isn't even damaged. That's incredible. Cecile's eyes wavered. Even the Blaze Luminous system can't compare to this. Oh, the big guy and I are gonna spend a lot of time together, now. Lloyd exclaimed like a giddy child. I want to know everything about this Prime power. I wonder what other fascinating relics are still out there. Rakshata said in the same kind of tone. That actually was a good question. Cecile then called on their trusted artificial intelligence. TAI, how many more sets of coordinates are left on the Yakin database? The holographic form of the girl appeared before the trio. There is only one coordinate left, I'm presently working on decoding it. How long do you think it'll take for you to decode it? Rakshata asked. Within a couple hours. Tai answered. Let us know the second it's done. Lloyd said. I wanna see what juicy relic we can get our hands on next. Don't you mean keep a potential weapon from falling into the possession of the Decepticons? Cecile said with a slight glare and raised eyebrow. Same difference. Lloyd waved off. Don't forget, we also got another little something to look forward to. Rakshata said. Something Fix-It and the others are working on. Lloyd knew what she was talking about, or rather, who. Ah yes, Orange Boy. Meanwhile, in a secure laboratory elsewhere on Horai Island, Jeremiah himself laid on a table, currently under anesthetics, thus allowing a group of scientists to get a good look at him inside and out, to make sure there weren't any unexpected surprises. When Lelouch proposed the idea, Jeremiah had volunteered for it instantly. He didn't want anyone to doubt his newfound loyalty to the cause that his prince and princess both fought for. Fix-It, along with Sophie, Anna, Joe, and their assistants were currently up and close with him, all the humans wearing white hazmat-like suits as they operated on him. Energon and blood synthetic compound appears to be clear, no sign of any nano solution. Sophie reported. Cerebral cortex being scanned now. Fix-It said as he held a scanner up to Jeremiah's robotic brain to process all the data that was being scanned. From the other side of a monitor in the other room, Perceptor was overlooking the data that Fix-It was transferring remotely, as well as the X-ray and bio scans of Jeremiah's entire body. Is all this really necessary? Claus asked as he, Chigusa, Alice, Nonette, Sayoko, and Sarah were all in the room with him to observe Jeremiah's operation, with Alice, Sayoko and Nonette being on standby in the event Jeremiah were to break out and try to escape, they could subdue him. Considering he was under Shockwave's so-called care for so long, I'd say it most certainly is. Perceptor responded to Claus. We don't know what for sure he left inside him. We should also be very careful not to damage him. Sarah said. If he is telling the truth and he does know where to find the Geass order and thought elevators, we could rescue my friends, and put a stop to that monster's experiments for good. Alice finished. I'm sure Grimlock would be more than happy about that too. He's been outside waiting for us to finish. So, he's definitely eager. Nonette added. She also inwardly vowed to tear it all down to the ground. Considering the pain VV and the Geass order put right through, she too had a grudge to settle. Chigusa looked with a complicated expression at seeing Jeremiah again. She remembered him fondly from their time in the Purebloods. Though that was a moment in her life she now regretted, she didn't regret befriending Jeremiah as he was a good man, albeit he had much to atone for, but the fact that he willingly volunteered for this showed that it was possible. We'll let Lelouch and Optimus know the second we're done here. Sayoko said before looking to Sarah. You should probably go to them. If they manage to find where the last relic is, it wouldn't hurt to be there just in case Megatron would send VV again. I'm doubtful Megatron would be foolish enough to send him into the field, considering he's important for his plans, but I do see your point. Sarah said before walking away. I too hope that we can finally put an end to this madness. The madness that I helped Charles and Victor to create. The Nemesis. Soundwave had approached his master, showing a set of map coordinates on his visor. You have decoded the final Yakan coordinates. Megatron asked, to which Soundwave nodded in response. Excellent, Soundwave. Then it is time to beta test our decoy. He said, upon holding a device that looked an awful lot like a container that an Yakan relic would be stored in. Lord Megatron, if I may, Starscream spoke up. Even if this decoy does work, it would only attract the attention of a small team. The Autobots and Black Knight forces have grown significantly, so it may not put that much of a dent in their forces. Perhaps not, but it will at least distract Optimus and Zero long enough for us to retrieve the final relic. I will not take any chances this time. Megatron replied. As Schneisel predicted, he's getting desperate. Good. Starscream inwardly thought, doing his best not to grin. Horai Island, Arc Bridge. The holographic form of Tai stood on the central console, standing straight, eyes closed, with data orbiting around her. I am nearly finished decoding the last set of coordinates. She reported as Optimus, Lelouch, and Sarah were present. Suddenly, an alarm sounded on the bridge, getting their attention. It was a specific alarm that they recognized. Perhaps you may not need to complete your task, TAI. Optimus said as they gazed up at the central monitor, which sprang to life to show a set of coordinates and an active beacon being broadcasted. An Yakin locator beacon. It seems the Decepticons have beaten us to the punch. Sarah assumed while Lelouch looked deep in thought. TAI stopped her work. Already a ground bridge and send for a team. No, wait. Lelouch stopped her for a minute, getting their attention. The timing seems too convenient. The Decepticons don't know we've managed to acquire the Yakin database, correct? That is what Ratchet and Nina have told us. Optimus answered. Do you suspect foul play? Considering what we know these relics to possibly be, most likely weapons of mass destruction, as well as how much we've gained from our recent battles, maybe Megatron could be using a false trail to throw us off. Lelouch offered. Even though we have the database, it's mostly a copied version while Megatron has the original. But what if it is a legitimate relic? Sarah asked. I don't think it's worth the risk to just ignore it. TAI, how much longer do you need to decode the final coordinates? Lelouch asked the artificial intelligence. Not long, maybe 10 minutes at most. She answered. Get it done. We'll send a team to the beacon just in case, but I want to be absolutely sure. Lelouch ordered. We can't exactly get in contact with Hotshot to confirm it, so we'll be attacking this from both ends. Sound advice, Lelouch. Optimus granted, seeing the logic in his decision. Megatron may not know we have copied the Yakin database, so the element of surprise may indeed remain in our favor. A ground bridge portal opened up as the 5 Alexander units of the Black Wyvern squad, along with Geno's Tristian Divider, Sideswipe, Strongarm, and Grindcore entered a foggy canyon area, standing on a mountain. Remind me again why we're here. Yukia asked. We're here to confirm whether or not there's a relic here. Akito answered. Or if it's a decoy the Decepticons are using to throw us off. But if it's a decoy, wouldn't that mean we're walking into a trap? Ayano asked. I sure hope so. Grindcore pounded his fist into his palm. I love a good trap. We'll split into groups of 3 and scout the area. Layla instructed. Akito and Sideswipe are with me. Yukia, Geno, and Strongarm are together. Ryo, Grindcore, and Ayano for the last team. Let the others know the second you find anything. You got it. Ryo nodded. The assigned groups then split off into the 3 separate directions, unaware of the drone mode of Soundwave flying through the clouds above them, carrying the decoy that was broadcasting the false beacon. Meanwhile, the Nemesis vessel hovered above the mountain from which the true relic was located, with the coordinates identifying it at the very base of the mountain itself. Currently, there was an excavation team led by the Constructicons to clear away at the rocky surface. Megatron himself was present to witness the excavation with Starscream, Steeljaw, and Schneisel by his side. As rocks and boulders were broken down, lifted away by Viacons in their helicopter modes, or even melted and drilled through, Mixmaster happened to melt one particular rock before looking past it to see something that wasn't naturally part of the mountain. Lord Megatron, the leader of the Constructicons, signaled. The Lord of Decepticons and his commanders walked closer upon being called. I certainly hope our new acquisition is of Decepticon origin, Megatron said. After our recent setbacks, we could use every advantage we can get. Schneisel said. Well, I am confident that my new Apex armor is more than capable of matching whatever we find here. Starscream boasted. Be careful Starscream, you may dislocate a landing gear patting yourself on the back. Steeljaw told him, earning a scowl from the Seeker. However, Megatron got a good look at the relic they had uncovered. It cannot be, that got all their attention as they saw it too. It appeared to be a large sword, the blade firmly embedded in the base of the mountain itself, the handle carried a gold hilt that was intricately shaped and symmetrical on both sides. It appears to be a sword of some kind. Schneisel observed, but he glanced in surprise to see Starscream and Steeljaw looking with shocked expressions of their own, but none appeared more shocked or even fearful than Megatron himself. Power of this magnitude must never be allowed to fall into the hands of Optimus Prime, no matter what. Schneisel, for one of the few times in his life, was genuinely surprised. The tone in Megatron's voice, he was afraid. He had seen expressions of rage, arrogance, and sadistic joy on the Decepticon leader. But fear, that was something he had never once seen before. Just what kind of sword is that, exactly? Schneisel asked. It is the Star Saber, Starscream explained, his face filled with awe and fear. Not only is it a relic of the original primes, but it is also said to be the most powerful one of them all. I have heard the stories myself, Steeljaw said upon inspecting the blade closer. The personal weapon of the very first prime, the one who would lead the charge against Unicron himself. I never once thought I'd ever see it with my own optics. The Star Saber? Mixmaster asked in surprise. I thought it was just a myth. I have seen this blade myself. Megatron recalled when he still went by the name Megatronus. He and Orion Pax would walk through the halls of Yakan alongside Alpha Trion as he would show them the various artifacts used by him and his siblings, the Star Saber being one of them. If the legends are indeed true, it must be removed quickly. Then it is fortunate we have found it first. Schneisel said. Perhaps if we were to wield that sort of power ourselves. He glanced towards Starscream with a knowing expression, earning a smirk from the head seeker. Megatron walked up to the embedded saber and grabbed the handle. Taking a moment to collect himself, he tried to pull the sword out, only to find that it wouldn't budge. He wrenched harder, as hard as he could. Even when he gripped both hands on the sword, he was unable to pull it. All the Decepticons looked with curiosity and concern towards one another as they saw their mighty leader struggle. Give me, Megatron used all his strength to try and force the sword from its stone imprisonment. But no matter how hard he pulled, no matter how strong he was, it wouldn't move so much as a millimeter. Getting tired of this, Megatron backed away and fired his fusion cannon at and around the relic, the objective being to blow away the rock and force the Star Saber to fall to the ground. After the 12th shot, Megatron ceased fire. He allowed the dust to clear, only to look in surprise to see the stone around the sword wasn't even damaged. He hadn't so much as chipped it. The rock is impermeable, he stated. The relic is emanating a protective shield. It will only respond to the power of a prime, he growled before turning to his forces. We will remove it even if we have to take the entire mountain. So even the mighty Megatron feels fear. Schneisel inwardly mused. At this point, it may be only a matter of time until Lelouch and his friends find us, and should they spot this so-called Star Saber, I imagine he'll call on Optimus to remove it if what Megatron said is true. So perhaps, it wouldn't be wrong to hope for that unfortunate outcome, wouldn't it? Horai Island. In a private room, the unmasked wizard, also known as Oegros, sat on a chair as he faced the group consisting of Orpheus, Uldren, Maribel, Monica, Ashley, Jean, Sokia, Leonhardt, and Makira with Miss X and Toto also present, but they mostly hung in the back. The Oz twins, along with the former princess and Knight of 12, glared the hardest as they faced the man who ruined their lives. Well, Uldren said. Start talking. Orpheus finished. Oegros took a deep breath before explaining the whole story. As you know, I'm the younger brother of Olivia Zevon, your mother. He said to Uldren and Orpheus specifically. And in the Zevon noble family, only females are allowed to be the heads of the household. Males are either reduced to minor roles within the family or sent off to another household. So, you're basically disowned if you're born with a dick. Ashley summed up, only to get elbowed by Jean. I wouldn't use those exact words, but more or less. Oegros replied. I was born in a powerful noble family within Britannia, and yet I was essentially ignored and looked over by everyone else simply because I was born. I admit, I was jealous, and I wanted the position for myself. I tried to mold myself into a suitable heir, an effective fighter, a competent strategist. I strengthened my body and my mind, but Olivia was just so much better, up to the point she even became a knight of the round. I wanted to dig around and see if I could find some dirt on her, but I was blocked everywhere I went. And then, when she had children, or rather you, he looked towards Uldren specifically, who narrowed her eyes at him. It would seem that my chance of becoming the head of the family had reached zero, because she had a female heir who could inherit it all. I guess that was the final straw for me. So, you killed her. Your own sister. Uldren glared hatefully. My mother, our mother. She gestured to her twin brother. Yes. Orpheus remembered when his niece looked at him with such tears and heartbreak upon seeing her uncle kill her own mother. After that, not only did I become the head of the Zevon family, I also became the head of Pluton. The Britannian Black Ops, Monica said. Very few people knew about their existence, even among the Knights of the Round or royal family. More than that, they were the personal attack force of the Geass Order. Orpheus added. It is there I began to see just how dirty Britannia truly was. Oegros said. So, you've met that VV, the late Emperor's brother? Leonhardt asked. I did. Oegros nodded. Even though he had the body of a child, one look in his eyes and I could tell, he was anything but. He wasn't even human anymore. If you thought it was dirty, why not try to leave? Sokia asked. I couldn't. Once you're a part of the Geass Order, there is no leaving. Oegros answered. The Emperor wanted to make sure that nobody would know of their existence. I believe that's why Olivia didn't want me involved, because she didn't want me to be a part of any of that. I suppose she was trapped as well, even as a Knight of the Round. So, what? You did her a favor by killing her. Uldren was ready to leap at him in anger, but Maribel put a firm grip on her shoulder, but still kept a glare on him. No, I did it for myself, but now I truly regret it. Oegros looked down in shame. Is that all you regret? Orpheus asked angrily. You're referring to when I attacked the village that took you in. You and Yulia, Oegros asked. And myself. Miss X spoke up. I was there too. VV told me that some important subjects had escaped. Oegros explained. I was tasked with leading Pluton to hunt them down, to either bring them back or kill them. He didn't tell me that it was my nephew I was hunting, or that I thought I killed him, as well as a member of the royal family. Maribel clenched her fists in anger. My sister was kidnapped, I thought she was killed with my mother, only to find she was murdered anyway by the very man that stands before me. Does Lelouch know about you? He knows. Oegros nodded. Him and Optimus, but I was the one who told them not to tell you, because I intended to do so myself. Is that why you became wizard? Jean asked. To try and atone. Yes. Oegros confirmed. Ever since I attacked that village, I realized what a horrible choice I've made, and if I could take any of it back, I would. But, I can't. So, I decided to do what I can to tear it all down. But you still remained with Pluton and Britannia. Makira pointed out. So that I can have access to sensitive information. Oegros replied. Information that I can spread with Peace Mark. I could play one side and work with the other. Until the cons took over. Ashley said. Peace Mark was my only option then. Oegros responded. I became wizard full-time. He looked towards Orpheus and Miss X. I was beyond surprised to see you two alive. I truly thought you both died back there. A part of me did. Orpheus looked away, with Monica putting a comforting hand on his back. I looked up to you, to Wizard. I thought you were someone I can get behind, someone who can help me tear down the evil and cruelty of this world. If only I knew that you were part of that filth. He stood up with a glare at his uncle. You think all the good you've done comes even remotely close to all the pain you've caused? No. Oegros shook his head. No amount of good deeds I've done can make up for the blood I spilled, but Orpheus, there is something that you need to know. You weren't sold to the Geass Order or disowned by the Zevon family, but rather you were stolen. That took Orpheus by surprise, as well as Uldren, Monica, Maribel, and everyone else present. What? Your mother had twins, but shortly after you were born, you vanished. Oegros told him. Nobody knew what had happened to you. It wasn't until after that mess at the village that I realized what had happened to you. I wouldn't be surprised if VV was the one who took you. I was taken. Orpheus was still trying to process it. Olivia wanted to find you, not because of any noble ties or to make you the head of anything, but because you were her flesh and blood. Zevon family traditions be damned, she loved you and she would stop at nothing to find you. Oegros said. She was relentless. I suspect that's why she became a Knight of the Round, because she could use their connections to find you, despite being trapped as the head of Pluton. But isn't Pluton also a part the Geass Order? Sokia asked. Not directly. Oegros explained. I never saw much of the Order itself or what went on in there. I was only given my assignments by VV to carry out. I couldn't have known you were there, and she wouldn't have known either. Orpheus had to sit back down and let all this process. He had a mother who loved him and searched relentlessly for him. A part of him felt like he should hate Oegros even more for killing her, but some of the things he said did make sense. If VV had learned that Olivia was searching for him, he probably would have killed her himself to cut off any loose ends. He felt his hand being gently grabbed and turned to see his twin sister trying to extend what kind of comfort she could give, as well as Monica as she wrapped her arms around him from the side. Even Maribel and the rest of the Crimson Knights came up to give him what support he could give. He almost felt his eyes water as he tried to keep it all down. "I'm sorry, to all of you," Oyagros said. "I won't ask for your forgiveness, because I know I don't deserve it. But please, let me finish this. I have to see this war to the end, and when it's all over, and you still hate me, you can kill me if you wish. Or, if you can't, I'll just leave and, you'll never have to see me again." Turning back to the unmasked man who looked down with a sorrowful expression, Maribel could at least tell that he was being sincere about wanting this war to end. Everyone here wanted that same thing, and given what they faced, they needed all the help they can get. "Are you truly serious about this? Do you truly wish to atone?" Maribel asked. "Yes," Oyagros confirmed. "And to prove it to you, use your Geass on me." That took them all by surprise. Similar to what Lelouch did with Suzaku. Oyagros explained. "This way not only do you not have to trust me, but you can also ensure that I won't die till this war ends. The only ones I'll let kill me are you three," he said to the Oz twins and Maribel. "Use your Geass to have me live when in combat so the risk of me dying falls to almost zero." "No," Maribel refused, much to Oyagros' surprise. "If I did that, you wouldn't really be atoning. You'd just be obeying the command of someone else. If you are serious about this, then you will fight and you will live, but let it be of your own will and not anyone else's. That's the only true way to redeem yourself. Do that, and at the end of this war, we'll see what happens to you." She turned around to her comrades, specifically the Oz twins. "Do you two find this acceptable?" "Yes." Uldren nodded. Orpheus took a moment to collect himself before answering. "That's right. I understand," Oyagros said. "I'll do my best to end this war and survive to see the end, but more than anything, I'll make sure you all survive as well. Not just so you have the opportunity to take your revenge, but so you can all live happy lives." "Sounds like a deal." Maribel accepted. "Consider this a contract of our own, between us and you." Oyagros did his best to push back a happy smile. "Well then, I accept the terms of your contract." A contract, Toto thought to herself. A part of her felt like a hypocrite just by staying here and listening to everything given her own past. But, if Oyagros was able to come clean like this, perhaps she can too. Just, not right this moment. She knew that her beloved Uldren and Maribel, and all their friends, were going through a lot right now and she didn't want to add on to it. But she would tell them soon. Real soon. And she could only pray that they felt it within their hearts to forgive her. Bridge of the Ark. An alarm sounded as a set of coordinates popped up on the central monitor. "Another locator beacon," Optimus noted. "TAI. Lelouch hoped she completed her task. Just finished decoding the last set of coordinates." TAI responded, as the decoding process stopped, and the aforementioned coordinates appeared on the central monitor as well. They match the location of the beacon. "So, the first was a decoy," Sarah said. "It seems Lelouch was right for once." She joked. Ignoring her joke, Lelouch was already prepared. "TAI, get in contact with Layla's team and bring them back. Optimus, why don't we scout the area and see what the Decepticons have unearthed?" "Very well." The Autobot leader accepted as they prepared to leave. "Wait, I'm unable to establish contact with the Black Wyverns and their Autobot escorts," TAI said worriedly. "I have their location, but I can't reach them. Can you open a ground bridge?" Lelouch asked. "Yes," TAI answered. "Then find a way to bring them back and get some of the others ready," he ordered. "Send more of our own to pick them up if you have to." A ground bridge portal opened some distance away from the decoded coordinates as Optimus and the Shinkiro exited the portal and into a forest. It closed briefly before the two leaders moved on, coming to a stop by a series of rock and trees that separated them from a clearing and a large mountain where they saw the Decepticon excavation team. Lelouch activated the Shinkiro's sensors to find the beacon and hopefully get an eye on the relic. He was able to find it quickly as the Shinkiro's monitors zoomed in on the sword that was embedded in the side of the massive rock on the mountain. "It's a sword. It is the Star Saber, Lelouch," Optimus explained to him as he saw the sword as well. Much like the Sky Boom shield, it was forged by Solus Prime and wielded by the first and eldest of the 13, Prima. It is among the most powerful weapons of the Primes. As he explained, Lelouch looked around to see who of the enemy faction was present, and he saw the leader of said faction. Megatron is here, so are Starscream and Steeljaw, and even, his eyes widened as his nightmare's monitor zoomed on his elder half-brother. Schneisel. The Constructicons are present as well. Optimus noted. We may indeed require backup. Hold on, why hasn't Megatron taken the Star Saber? It's still embedded in the rock. Lelouch observed. He even glanced up to the top of the massive rock to see Scrapper and Long Haul attaching cables and devices to the top of said rock. He can't remove it, can he? The sword will only respond to the power of a prime, just like the forge and the shield. Correct. Optimus confirmed. It would seem that Megatron is attempting to move the rock itself if he cannot remove the saber. Removing such a massive object would take him time, even with the forces he has on hand. Lelouch said as he smirked inwardly. The actions of someone who is truly desperate. And if he's that afraid of Optimus getting his hands on it, then it's all the more reason to secure this Star Saber. He spoke to his mentor. Let's call for reinforcements. I think I have a plan on how we can take it. The sun had all but set on the area surrounding the mountain, the darkness of night creeping in. The Constructicons and excavating Viacons had moved away all the surrounding rocks and boulders from the massive stone that the Star Saber was embedded in, with Long Haul and Scrapper finishing securing a hook-like device to the top of the stone before sliding down and giving their leader a thumbs up. Everything's secure, Lord Megatron. Mixmaster reported. Then commence transport immediately. Megatron ordered. Upon his command, the Nemesis deployed a cable from its lower hull, extending down all the way to the massive rock before attaching itself to the hook like a magnet. Schneisel chuckled with Starscream and Steeljaw nearby. You know, there is a legend much like this here on Earth. In fact, the old Britannia used to base its actions directly off this legend, believing it to justify their actions. It depicts a legendary sword known as Excalibur embedded in a stone, waiting for the one who is worthy, a true king, to wield it. And only said king could remove the sword from the stone, nobody else. Ah, Starscream grinned. It almost makes me wish Britannia had discovered the Star Saber and tried to remove it themselves, only to fail so miserably. They could have mistaken it for their so-called Excalibur, and when they couldn't remove it, oh what I wouldn't give to see the looks on their faces. That would not be happy, I promise you that. Schneisel chuckled. Well, considering the Excalibur of legend could only be wielded by a true king, and the fact the Star Saber can only be held by a prime, I find it too much of a coincidence. Steeljaw put his 2 cents in. We've seen evidence of human lore and mythology based off that of Cybertronian, so perhaps Excalibur was inspired by the Star Saber. You do make a good point. Schneisel commented. Well, I'm certain that those characters in that legend would never even think that if they cannot remove the sword, they will take the whole stone. Starscream grinned as they saw the Nemesis cable slowly hauling the massive rock upward. And that is why Britannia is now non-existent. And we are not. Steeljaw finished. The Decepticons continued to watch as the Nemesis vessel slowly ascended, pulling up the massive stone with it. Due to the enormous mass of the stone, it was a bit of a strain on the cable and the Decepticon warship couldn't afford to go too fast without risk of the cable breaking. But already, it was detached from the mountain and rising rather high. Megatron almost felt the need to smirk as it seemed like a crisis had been successfully averted. Only for a series of explosions to erupt all around him, catching his attention as he turned around to see a group of Autobots and Black Knight Nightmares charge and guns blazing. Go! Attack, now! Zero ordered, the Shinkiro leading the charge with Bumblebee, the Gurren, Lancelot, RC, Ironhide, and Pink Akatsuki right beside him, along with Sideswipe, Grindcore, Strongarm, and the Black Wyvern squadron consisting of the 5 Alexander Nightmares and the Tristian Divider. Energon blasts and bullets ranged across the now ensuing battlefield as many Decepticons were quickly gunned down. Starscream quickly picked up Schneisel and transformed into his jet mode before flying back to the Nemesis for safety. Horai Island, Arc Bridge. Ratchet had a clear visual on the battle that was now ensuing and already quite the audience had gathered, both to witness and be deployed just in case. Such an audience consisted of Ultra Magnus, Nunnally, Bulkhead, Rai, Shirley, Elita 1, Rivals, Millie, Nina, Toto, Shink, Kagaya, Ogi, Tamaki, Alice, Yuffie, Cornelia, Lloyd, Rakshata, Cecile, and Diethard. So, what juicy little relic do we have this time? Lloyd asked. It is known as the Star Saber. Ratchet explained. Said to be the most powerful weapon of the original Primes. I'm assuming then that only a Prime is capable of wielding it. Toto said. You would assume correctly. Ultra Magnus confirmed, which is why Megatron is likely moving the stone himself since he can't take the sword. I'll at least give Megatron credit for persistency and creativity. Alita put in. A literal sword in the stone, Rakshata said with a knowing grin. It's just like Excalibur. Rivals said excitedly. Hey, isn't the guy who possessed the sword supposed to be immortal or something? That's from the scabbard, actually. Cecile pointed out. Seriously, why would you make the sheath magic? Tamaki questioned. That makes no sense at all. Do you think the others are going to do it? That they can get the Star Saber? Alice asked. Megatron himself is there. They can do it, Nunnally said with no hesitation in her voice. No doubt. Rice said with no hesitation in his voice. I just wish I was there. Same here, partner. Bulkhead agreed. But there's nothing we can do about it now. Just sit back and watch it all happen. And believe in them, Shirley said as she gently reached out to grab Ray's prosthetic hand and smiled toward him, earning a smile from him as well. Back on the battlefield, explosions continued to erupt as the present Autobots and Black Knights attacked with everything they had. Already several Vehicons had been destroyed with the Constructicons and Steeljaw attempting to rally their forces and make a stand. Megatron remained near the rear to observe the situation unfolding before him. A full frontal assault. Though there was surprise involved, it still wasn't Lelouch's style. Now that he thought about it, the delay between the relic's unearthing and the arrival of the enemy was surprisingly longer than that of the relics in the past. Wait, something wasn't right. Where is Optimus? Megatron wondered aloud. He tried to look around for his enemy, his optics glancing up the mountain before he looked in clear shock to see Optimus leaping and climbing up the mountain. He transformed once he reached a certain point and drove as fast as he could, making his way closer to the dangling rock, and the sword that was still embedded in it. He transformed again and then leapt upward toward a ledge, flipping and getting higher and closer to his objective. It didn't take long for Megatron to realize that this was all merely a distraction. Keep Prime from the relic. He transformed along with 3 jet Vehicons and flew in pursuit of Optimus, something Zero noticed. Suzaku. Colin. Run interference. The rest of us can handle things down here. Lelouch ordered. Got it. Colin replied as the Gurren took flight. Understood. Suzaku said at the same time, the Lancelot transforming into its jet mode before flying to catch up. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Autobots and Black Knights continued to press their forces as the remaining Decepticons were backed into a corner. We have to regain control of this situation. Steeljaw exclaimed. Agreed. Constructicons, combine into Devastator. Mixmaster ordered. The Constructicons did as ordered as Longhaul and Scrapper transformed into their vehicle modes briefly before configuring themselves to form the legs with Scavenger leaping on top of them to transform and form the lower torso. Hook and Bonecrusher jumped from the sides to transform into the arms while Mixmaster jumped straight up before transforming to form the upper torso and merge with the rest of his team, where the head of the massive combiner appeared and came online. Devastator online. The Constructicon combiner loomed over the whole team. Aw scrap. Ironhide cursed as he and his comrades opened fire on the massive Decepticon, who shielded himself with his right arm before forming his drill in his left arm and lunging it down, forcing the heroes to disperse and avoid the devastating and quaking impact that shook the whole area. They're scattered. Move in. Steeljaw ordered, rallying the remaining Vehicons as they charged forward and opened fire. That's one big con. Yukia noted. Then maybe it's time to size up and even the odds, right? Ayano asked with a knowing grin. I agree. Well, Commander. Akito asked Layla. She only smiled in response as her blue Geass activated, the enigma of combination that was embedded on her Alexander glowing a bright blue, with the blue rings appearing in the eyes of all her teammates simultaneously. Black Wyverns, combine into Hercules. Layla ordered. The enigma shined to life as her white Alexander hovered in the air, surges of electricity reaching out to connect to the customized Alexander Valiants of Ryo, Ayano, and Yukiya, as well as the Liberté of Akito. All 5 units were pulled and merged together, their parts moving and shifting as Yukiya and Ayana formed the legs, Ryo forming the left arm and Akito forming the right. The head unit activating as the Mega Nightmare came to life and stood tall to face Devastator. Upon first glance, it seemed that Devastator was almost twice as big, something the Decepticon combiner noted. Puny humans. Be crushed. Devastator lifted both his arms with the intent on smashing Hercules in, but the Nightmare combiner leapt backwards to avoid the devastating blow that created a small earthquake. Despite the shaking of the earth below them, Hercules stood strong. His head's down. Let's get him, Ryo exclaimed. Move in. Layla ordered. All their minds were perfectly in sync as Hercules quickly rushed Devastator while he was in that crouching position before jumping into the air and bringing its arms down on the back of Devastator's head to knock him off balance. While he was down, Hercules spun on his right leg to deliver a spinning kick with his left to the side of Devastator's face that almost knocked him down completely, but he steadied himself on his legs and quickly tried to stand up. The thing about guys as big as you're pretty slow. Yukiya grinned. We're at a mountain. Let's use the terrain to our advantage. Akito suggested. You guys aren't alone, though. They looked to see the Tristian divider gunning straight for Devastator. Hey big guy. Remember me? He fired his Harkins, which were magnetically brought together to unleash a powerful blast right into Devastator's face, sending him crashing into the mountain. I'll keep him focused on me. You guys get on top. You got it. Thanks, Gino. Ayano smiled. We'll handle Devastator. Do not worry about us. Layla relayed to Zero. Alright, be careful. He acknowledged as the Shinkiro fired its right knee-mounted Harkins at a duo of Viacons to cut them down. Aha, so that's the Nightmare combiner, Hercules. Truly astounding. Lloyd grinned madly. Okay, that is so freaking cool. Rivals exclaimed with a toothy grin. And it appears to be holding its own quite well against Devastator. The very thing that devastated the remaining knights of the round. Rakshata noted. Oh, just imagine the number Britannian elitists that are spinning around in their graves right now. Lloyd smirked. No offense. He quickly said to Cornelia and Euphemia, the former raised an eyebrow with a slight glare. Weren't you a Britannian earl, though? Bulkhead asked. I was never patriotic, to begin with. Lloyd brushed off. Come on, kick their ass. Tamaki cheered as everyone else continued to watch in amazement or seriousness. Sideswiped rushed 2 Viacons with his sword, quickly cutting the one on the right down before delivering a kick to the second. 3 miners on top of a nearby cliffside tried to shoot at him from their position, but they were quickly shot down by a volley of blasts from RC and Strongarm. Chera's pink Akatsuki shot toward 2 helicopter Viacons that tried to shoot at her, but she was able to dodge most of them before moving in with her katana to slice off the propeller blades of one of them, causing it to fall before shooting her arm-mounted machine gun in the second's face to destroy it. Bumblebee shot down a Viacon before his eyes quickly widened to Steeljaw pouncing on him, tackling and rolling across the ground before stopping to pin him down, and raise his claw to slice at his face. Only for Ironhide to quickly come up and grab the aforementioned claw and used his superior strength to throw the wolf-like Decepticon away. Devastator swung his left arm towards the Tristian divider. Gino tried to steer his Nightmare out of the way, but he was still struck in the side which sent him spiraling through the air. Before Devastator could make any move to go forward, he heard a yell from above and turned around to see Grindcore leaping from the side of the mountain and grip around his face. As the human kids of Earth say, in your face. Grindcore pounded his right fist repeatedly into Devastator's right eye, causing the enormous Decepticon a great deal of pain. This left him perfect distracted for the Hercules to climb up to equal level with its upper body. There's another thing we say here on Earth, Ryo began. The bigger they are, Yukiya continued. The harder they fall. Ayano finished as the Hercules leapt forward, with Akito bringing its bladed arm down for a devastating flash across Devastator's chest, which not only made a deep cut, but the force of the impact was enough to send him tumbling down to the ground. Fortunately, none of the heroes were close enough to be crushed by the fall. Meanwhile, as Optimus tried to make his way up the mountain and closer towards the Star Saber, Megatron and his Jet Viacon escort were getting close to intercepting him themselves, only for one of the Viacons to get shot down by rapid-fire energon blasts, courtesy of Suzaku, the Lancelot in its jet mode before gunning further to ram directly into Megatron. "Lord Megatron," one of the other Viacons exclaimed, only for him and his partner to be blasted away by a sphere of explosive energy launched by the Gurren's Surger Claw. After being rammed, Megatron had transformed and gripped the Lancelot, which also transformed with the Decepticon leader gripping onto its face, both of them falling from the sky. "I will rip you out of your precious nightmare and crush you in the palm of my hand, Kururugi." Suzaku struggled to escape Megatron's grip, but he would soon receive aid as the Gurren flew in to slice its MVS dagger across Megatron's back, forcing him to let go and allow the Lancelot to fly away, where the Gurren grabbed Megatron by the face while the two were airborne. "Let's see you take the heat." Colin activated the Surger, which sent the harmful radiation directly into Megatron's face, but he quickly brought up his fusion cannon and fired directly into the Gurren's chest to blast it back, forcing it to release him. However, this momentary distraction was everything that Optimus needed, as he had transformed again upon reaching the very summit of the mountain and kicked it into maximum overdrive. He gunned it right over the cliffside like a makeshift ramp, using the gathered momentum to propel himself at the right angle straight toward the massive rock. He transformed and reached out his hand to just barely grab the Star Saber by the handle, causing himself to hang off the rock, the sword being the only means of maintaining a solid grip. All the Autobots and Black Knights watched in suspense, wondering what was about to happen, while Megatron's optics widened in shock and fury. The very second his hand touched the sword, the blade of the Star Saber began to shine a bright blue, pure energy radiating from it as it responded to the matrix of leadership that he kept inside himself. The Star Saber was then pulled from the rock, causing Optimus to fall with the sword back to the ground. Using this opportunity to retreat, Megatron quickly transformed and flew back toward the Nemesis while a ground bridge was called in to pull out Steeljaw and the disbanded Constructicons. Colin and Suzaku both flew in to try and help the falling Optimus, but that proved to be unnecessary as the energy radiating from the Star Saber enveloped Optimus like blue-white fire, almost like it was a shield. He landed on the ground almost like a meteorite with excessive energy exploding outward. The dust quickly settled and in the middle of the impact zone was Optimus, the glowing Star Saber embedded the ground from the impact. With one hand, Optimus pulled out the Star Saber and held it up high, its bright light illuminating the night like a bright star. The Gurren and Lancelot flew down to regroup with the Shinkiro, Tristian, Pink Akatsuki, and Hercules, alongside Bumblebee, RC, Ironhide, Sideswipe, Strongarm, and Grindcore as each of them looked impressed. "Okay, you guys gotta admit that looks freaking badass," Yukiya commented. "No argument there, buddy." Grindcore agreed. From the bridge of the Nemesis, Megatron growled in fury. He was not about to let Optimus get away with such a dangerous weapon. "Drop the mountain on him." The magnet detached the massive rock, causing it to fall and crash on a huge hilltop. Much to everyone's shock and horror, they saw the rock roll downhill straight to Optimus with no sign of stopping. Something that massive would undoubtedly crush him. "Optimus, retreat," RC warned to him. "Get out of there, Prime," Ironhide warned. "Let's blast that thing with everything we got." Colin readied her Gurren's weapons. "No time to prime everything," Suzaku exclaimed. "Can't we stop it?" Ayano questioned. "That thing is too large even for the Hercules," Akito stated. "We would be crushed under its momentum." TAI, deploy an emergency ground bridge to Optimus, location. "Now," Lelouch ordered. "Wait a minute." Sarah stopped them all, much to their surprise. "What, Sarah, what are you?" Layla questioned. "Just wait," the immortal girl insisted even as the enormous stone was right before Optimus. The leader of the Autobots turned around to face the gigantic rock, right when it was about to roll over him, but he wasn't the least bit fazed. He pulled back on the Star Saber and just as the stone was about to make a devastating and deadly contact. Slice. Asterisk. Optimus Prime had swung the Star Saber upward, cleaving the entire stone in half, both halves rolling behind him before coming to a stop. And it wasn't anything rough, it was a clean and perfect cut. Almost like a hot knife through butter. And there wasn't even so much as a scratch on either Optimus or the bright glowing saber. "Wait, what?" Colin stuttered. Did Did he just? Sideswipe stuttered as well. Cut right through a mountain. Bumblebee bleeped. Yes, I believe he did. No way, Ryo's eyes wavered in absolute shock. That's amazing. A wide and awestruck smile formed on Gino's face, looking at the Prime as if he were a comic book superhero. RC, Strongarm, Layla, and Suzaku each looked with circular eyes and open mouths, their pupils wavering in amazement. Yukiya, Grindcore, Ayano, and even Akito were all rendered speechless, not believing it if they weren't seeing it for themselves. Though shocked as well, a knowing smirk fell on Ironhide's face as he gave a single nod, something Sarah felt as well. He never ceases to amaze me. The immortal thought internally. As for Lelouch, the sensation that he felt couldn't quite be described to mere words. It was almost like he was hit with shock and amazement all at once and tenfold. A part of him had expected Optimus to do something amazing, but he never expected anything like this. Before he knew it, a smile had formed on his face almost automatically. Holy shit, Tamaki muttered as everyone else on the Ark's bridge had seen what had transpired as well. Rivals, Millie, Alice, Cecile, Nina, Ogi, and even Cornelia all felt their jaws drop from their mouths. Rockshadow was so shocked that she had dropped her pipe and let it fall to the ground just as Lloyd fell to his knees, his eyes shaking as he was rendered completely speechless. Even those normally stoic like Toto and Shink. Please tell me that was recorded. Diethard stuttered as his inner fanatic once again came to the surface. TTTTAI. That was recorded, wasn't it? Oh yes. Down to the millisecond. The artificial intelligence herself confirmed. Rai and Shirley were both completely awestruck, the girl placing a hand over her mouth as they not only looked toward themselves in shock, but even Bulkhead who was just as shocked as they were. Amazing. Keigaya's eyes sparkled as she smiled like a child on Christmas morning. He truly is, Euphemia smiled warmly in agreement as she and Nunnally looked on with emotional smiles before turning toward Ratchet, Ultra Magnus, and Alita 1. They too were just as amazed as they smiled at the girls, looking at them with the same hope-filled optics. On the Nemesis Bridge, Starscream and Steeljaw were both rendered speechless, as was even Schneisel. It was incredibly rare to see genuine shock on the former Britannian prince's face, but this was one of those times. He had just witnessed Optimus Prime cut through a mountain like it was paper. Of course, none of that could compare to what Megatron felt. He had heard the stories from Alpha Trion of what the Star Saber was capable of. But to actually see it with his own optics, and in the hands of his greatest enemy, for one of the very few times in his life, Megatron felt something that he never once imagined he'd ever feel again. Particularly from Optimus. Fear. Optimus Prime then ran forward, swinging the Star Saber around himself, and generating a trail of energy with each swing before giving a yell and one final swing to send a wave of blue energy straight for the retreating Nemesis. The wave struck from behind, near the engine area, shaking up the whole vessel and causing it to fall downwards. However, it was quickly able to stabilize itself, pick itself back up, and fly away at high speeds. Incredible. Layla looked in awe as the other Autobots and Black Knights present all began to cheer and holler in victory. Yeah, that's right. You better run. Sideswipe called out. Even Suzaku, who wasn't known for celebrating too loudly, couldn't help but laugh in genuine joy and happiness. Perhaps this war may come to an end sooner than he thought. Once again, he was glad that he had chosen the right side. Lelouch looked to his mentor in awe once more as he wielded the bright and glowing Star Saber. Long live the king. As the Nemesis retreated, and those on the bridge regained their footing from the whole vessel shaking at the Star Saber's attack, Megatron couldn't hide the fact that despite every victory they've gained so far, it could all mean nothing as the Autobots and Black Knights now possessed arguably the most powerful weapon in the universe. With the Star Saber in Optimus' hands, even Neo Ragnarok was now at risk. We Decepticons now face our darkest hour. Your darkest hour might be the key to my brightest day. Schneisel mused inwardly. You certainly know how to pick your mentors, don't you, Lelouch? And Optimus Prime, you never cease to amaze. Upon returning to Horai Island with the rest of his team from the mission, Optimus Prime was greeted with an absolute standing ovation as everyone on the bridge of the Ark cheered and clapped for him. Go Optimus! Shirley cheered. You were amazing out there. Keigaya cheered. Truly incredible. Toto clapped. Here thought you couldn't get any more amazing. Ogi clapped as well. That sword is literally the coolest thing ever. Tamaki practically screamed. Damn right. Did you see what he did? Slice. Rivals motioned a sword slice with his arm. Just imagine what would have happened if that thing were to hit Megatron in the face. Rai grinned. Buckethead would be pushing up lugnuts for sure. Bulkhead also smirked. Not even he could survive that. How truly wonderful. Lloyd looked especially excited. Please tell me you'll let me get a closer look at that amazing weapon. Sorry Lloyd, but I already called first dibs. Rakshata grinned, causing him to pout. Optimus you were amazing. Nunnally practically cried as Yuffie held her close. That was. I think this war might actually be coming to an end soon, Yuffie herself added as Cornelia held her sister's hand with just as much emotion. Let's not get too carried away. Ultra Magnus spoke up. Yes, the acquisition of the Star Saber is a victory, but so long as Megatron remains free, the war is still far from over. Aw man, why do you always have to be such a killjoy, Magnus? Tamaki complained. Just enjoy the victory party, dude. No, Ultra Magnus is right. Ratchet added. We can't afford to get too comfortable, especially since Megatron has done the impossible before. Such as acquiring his own Geass. Alita added. Lelouch, Colin, and Suzaku each shared concerned expressions with one another. Despite the clear victory today, they all knew personally just what Megatron was capable of, so they also knew they weren't in the clear yet. Then perhaps it's time to deal a decisive blow. One that they cannot recover from. Everyone turned toward the entrance of the bridge to see Fix-It, Sayoko, and Chigusa escorting a certain cyborg inside, one that everyone recognized as many looked at him with either glares or concern. Jeremiah Gottwald. Or do you prefer, Orange? Lelouch greeted coldly. That last name earned a grin from him. You call me what you wish, Zero, or Lelouch. That last comment caused Lelouch to glare slightly up at Nunnally. He never imagined he'd ever glare at her before, but her revealing his identity to him without his consent wasn't exactly something he approved of. Nunnally looked at him with a serious expression of her own, silently telling him that she knew and understood why he was mad but didn't regret her actions. Are you guys sure he's clean? Colin asked, considering we don't know exactly he went through. Especially at Shockwave's hands. RC added. Despite being on the same mission that saw Jeremiah's defection, she was still cautious. We're 100% certain of it. Fix-It confirmed. We ran a thorough scan through Jeremiah's techno-organic internal systems, and there is no trace of malware or any other form of danger inside him whatsoever. Any connection to the Decepticons has been severed. He is now free. Even after everything you've done, especially to some of us here, Lelouch began, glancing at Suzaku first before glaring at the former head of the Purebloods. Do you really expect us to trust you? Zero, if I may. Chigusa spoke up. Wasn't I also on the same side as him, and you allowed me into your ranks, as well as other former Britannians that were once your enemies? Even a few former Decepticons. If you were willing to give them a second chance, shouldn't you do the same for him? She does have a point. Suzaku agreed. You gave one for me too even after everything I did. Lelouch sighed, seeing that they were right. It would be hypocritical of Lelouch for him not to at least give Jeremiah a chance. I won't ask for your forgiveness, that is something I must earn, I've already come to terms with that. Jeremiah spoke directly to the young revolutionary. But, my failing to protect your mother has been my single and greatest regret. So, allow me the chance to atone, not just for failing her, but for all the times I've tried to hurt you and your friends. He bowed to him, kneeling before the former prince like a knight would royalty. I will pledge my undying loyalty to the cause of the Autobots and Black Knights. I will give everything I have to rid this world of the Decepticon vermin that seek to destroy it, and anyone else who would threaten you. Let us begin, with the complete and total destruction of the Geass Order. Optimus then spoke up. Are you certain you know of its location? And every active thought elevator on this planet. The cyborg confirmed. And my vow is not only to Zero. It is to you as well, Optimus Prime. I pledge my loyalty and life to you, and you will expect nothing less than perfection from me. I will even face Megatron himself in single combat if that is your wish. Damn, I think I actually believe him. Tamaki commented. Lelouch and Optimus shared eye contact with one another. One look and they both came to a silent agreement as Lelouch walked over and extended his hand to the kneeling cyborg. Then let's not waste any more time. We'll begin immediately. What do you say, Orange? The leader of the Black Knights offered. Jeremiah gave an ambitious smirk as he firmly gripped his newfound leader's hand. Indeed, yes, my Master Zero. War on Geass. Megatron stood on the bridge of the retreating Nemesis vessel in silence. Behind him were Starscream, Steeljaw, Soundwave, and Schneisel, all looking to the back of the Decepticon leader that had yet to even make a move or a sound. One couldn't necessarily blame him as they all saw the same thing. Optimus Prime, their greatest enemy, now wields a weapon of unimaginable power, one that could have sliced the entire vessel that they were still standing on in half. Why he didn't was anyone's guess, but they were at least grateful for the fact that they were alive. After what seemed like an eternity, Steeljaw was the first to step forward. Lord Megatron, while our retreat was unfortunate but necessary, I believe now may be the best time to begin planning a counterattack. Counterattack? Megatron questioned loudly as he finally turned around to address his subordinates. Perhaps you've failed to notice Optimus Prime cleave through an entire mountain with a single blow. With the Star Saber in his possession, my enemy can eliminate us all with the wave of his hand. There is also the fact that Optimus and his Black Knight pets have rallied nearly all the other humans of this world under their banner. Starscream added. That being said, perhaps it is best for us to simply leave Earth. Let's forget about this speck of dirt and just leave it all behind. They will simply follow us. Megatron stated. Lelouch is not one to leave loose ends. He and Optimus will take the Ark and their forces and follow us to the other side of the universe if they wish. What we must do, is find a way to tip the balance of power back in our favor. Do we not also possess a similar artifact? Schneisel recalled. A relic of the so-called primes. Soundwave responded to that by showing an image of said relic on his visor. Yes, that is it. The Forge of Solus Prime. Steeljaw confirmed. While it is not a weapon like the Star Saber, it has the capability to forge such weapons. In fact, lore says that it was used to forge the Star Saber in the first place. Unfortunately, the forge is completely useless to us. Starscream said. It will only respond when in the hand of a prime. It was that choice of words that got Megatron's attention. The hand of a prime. A smirk fell on his face before he chuckled, getting the attention of his subordinates, before his chuckle turned into full-on laughter as he had been struck with an epiphany. It's so simple, I'm ashamed I didn't think of it sooner. Megatron's laughter died down. Starscream, for once you may have actually provided a solution to our current predicament. Horai Island. Oh my, just, oh my. Lloyd was giddy like a schoolgirl as he, Cecile, Rakshata, Fixit, Anna, Nina, and Perceptor studied the Star Saber in the base's scientific laboratory. You've been saying that for the last hour now. Perceptor pointed out. Well, I can't blame him. Rakshata grinned. After all, it's not every day that you study a weapon that could be considered godlike. I still can't believe it. Anna looked over the footage of Optimus Prime wielding the Star Saber to slice the mountain that would have crushed him in an instant. It was a clean cut, too. The amount of power to not only create such a slice, but also overpower the inertia and momentum gathered from a giant mountain that was rolling down. I can't think of anything, human or Cybertronian, that can actually stop something like that. Cecile said. Not to mention the energy that was used to send off that ranged attack. They looked at the footage that changed to Optimus wielding the Star Saber to send a wave of energy directly toward the retreating Nemesis. What kind of energy even is that? Anna asked. It is said to draw power from the matrix of leadership, which contains not only fragments of the sparks of the original primes, but even a piece of Cybertron's core. Fixit said. So this sword is essentially powered by the core of a planet. Lloyd said before grinning like a madman. Have I mentioned how much I just love Cybertronian technology? I mean, all those weapons we've seen since first contact in Area 11 are trinkets compared to all this prime stuff. He sighed as if he had just fallen in love. Oh, what I wouldn't give to live among those primes. Perhaps we should best focus on the now. Nina said as she was looking at a monitor hooked up to a machine that had scanned the Star Saber. Primarily how there appear to be fissures on this weapon. That got everyone's attention. Fissures? Cecile asked. Perceptor brought up the data on his own monitor, showing an image of the star saber itself before zooming in on a microscopic level to reveal several small cracks and fissures all across the blade. It's true, though they may be small and invisible to the naked eye or optic, they are still there. Perceptor said, as everyone looked worried. Well, if you believe the legends Optimus had said, these relics of the primes were created around the early days of the universe. Rakshata said, which is around 13 billion years old. Which means the star saber is quite an old weapon. Cecile commented. That's an understatement, Lloyd added as he sighed sadly. Unfortunately, nothing is immune to the effects of time. Wouldn't that mean the star saber could break? Anna asked worriedly. That is unlikely, Fixit said. Though the star saber is very old, it is still incredibly powerful. In order to actually deal any significant damage, even with all those fissures, you would require a weapon of equal or greater power. The only thing that really comes to mind is a supernova. So, unless Megatron decides to blow up our sun, I think we're good. Lloyd said. And here's hoping you didn't just jinx us, Lloyd. Rakshata told him. Wait, can Megatron destroy our sun? Cecile asked. Now that she thought about it, if he would go so far as to poison his own home planet and even desecrate the dead, destroying a star doesn't seem too out of character for him. Now she was looking worried. Rest assured, the Decepticons do not have that kind of firepower at their disposal. Perceptor said, causing the group to sigh in relief. At least not yet, Lloyd said, causing Cecile to stomp on his foot. Ow. Meanwhile, the leadership of the Black Knight Autobot Alliance had gathered on the bridge of the Ark, consisting of Lelouch, Optimus, Sarah, Ogie, Toto, Layla, Ironhide, Wizard, Cornelia, Ultra Magnus, Ratchet, and Maribel, as Jeremiah presented all the information that he had on the Geass Order as well as the thought elevators. TAI was actively showing world maps on the main screen to help illustrate Jeremiah's descriptions. Sayoko was present as well, if only to protect Lelouch should something happen. There were once 8 thought elevators in total. Jeremiah explained. One is located in what was formerly the EU city of London, which was briefly conquered by Britannia and later the Decepticons before the former empire could designate it as an area. The second is at Area 20 in the former African country of Congo. The third is located in the former Area 18. The fourth is in Euro-Britannian territory, within the Upper Peninsula formerly known as Russia. The fifth is located in Antarctica. While the last one is stationed within the Geass Order itself, which is located underground within Taklamakan Desert in the Chinese Federation. That is only 6. What of the other 2? Optimus asked. One was in Area 11, Kaname Island specifically. But you destroyed that. Jeremiah answered to the Prime. The other was underneath Pendragon, but that was destroyed when the palace fell, collateral damage. Can we be certain you weren't fed false information? Toto questioned. We had run a thorough scan over Jeremiah multiple times. Ratchet replied. I believe the information he has is valid. General Bartley once believed that the primary reason for Britannia's invasions was to secretly obtain the thought elevators, but nobody could confirm it. Jeremiah said. Asplund did bring that up. Lelouch recalled. So, all this time, all our conquests, the lives we ruined, Cornelia did her best to conceal her anger. It was all for this. Yes, Sarah confirmed. Everything Britannia did, it was all based on lies and false promises concocted by Charles, his brother, and his closest inner circle within the Geass Order. Why go that far though? What could he possibly want with all these thought elevators? Ogie asked. What even is a thought elevator anyway? I'm not certain of their origin. Sarah explained as best as she could. Perhaps they were built by that first civilization that Vector Prime had shown us. She, Lelouch, Layla, Optimus, and Maribel all recalled that particular instance. As for what Charles and Vivi wanted from them, they believed they could shatter the boundaries between this world and what they perceived as the afterlife, or C's world. This was their plan, what they called Ragnarok. I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that term. What is Ragnarok? Ultra Magnus asked. The twilight of the gods. Layla explained. Norse mythology depicts an event where all humanity lose their sense of sanity, and all gods and mythological figures do battle with one another that lays waste to the world around them, while also setting the stage for a new world to be reborn from the ashes. Simply put, it's the apocalypse. Maribel translated. So, My late father's goal was to destroy the world. Lelouch deduced, his fists clenching in anger. Britannia was well on the way to doing that already. Ogi said with disdain clearly in his voice. Not to mention Megatron could probably destroy the planet anytime he wanted since he destroyed Cybertron. Why would they need these magic elevator things to do it? Because they believed Ragnarok could unite all humans together, both living and dead. Sarah stated, getting all their attention. Charles and Victor both believed that humanity was incapable of change, that they were deceitful and chaotic by nature, that peace, coexistence, equality, virtually everything that you believe, Optimus, she said as she looked toward the Prime, was a lie and impossible to achieve. This would unite all humanity, alive or dead, into one single being. At least that's how they thought. In a sense, it would literally destroy the individuality and free will of all humanity. Optimus surmised. Pretty much. Sarah confirmed. Till all are one, Lelouch muttered. A dark and twisted version of it. You seem to know a lot about this Ragnarok. Toto pointed out. All eyes set on Sarah. Many of them had long since got a general idea that Sarah had some form of association with Charles and VV at one point, they still didn't know the full story. Optimus had especially been patient with her, allowing her to explain it all at her own time. But it would seem that time is now. Because I helped them with it. She revealed, getting everyone's attention. I was one of the leaders of the Geass Order alongside them. I helped them prepare for Ragnarok when they were still young, and I worked alongside them for many years. Why would you help them with that? Mary Bell asked. Because I saw it as a way out. Sarah stated, turning around, not even bringing herself to face them all. I've lived longer than any human on this planet, I may even be older than Britannia itself. I've honestly lost count of the decades I've walked this earth. I have seen war after war, times of peace here and there. I've seen people grow, change, love and hate one another, I've seen people die peacefully, and I've seen innocent lives taken for every reason you can possibly think of. Yet I remain the same. I'm unable to form any kind of attachments with anyone, because any kind of connection I had was quickly lost. They live their lives, they grow old, they die, while I remain the same. Because of that, I can't even find someone to love, to start a family with, to live alongside. She was on the verge breaking down, yet still didn't turn to face any of them. I used to form contracts with people, give them Geass, so that they could master it, and one day, remove this curse of immortality that I have. But each and every time, they all failed. I saw Ragnarok as a way to escape all of that. A way to finally end. I didn't view humanity the same way as them, I just wanted to die. Or at least have an end in sight. She couldn't bring herself to finish before she fell on her knees and covered her face, sobbing. Everyone, even the most normally stoic and hardened warriors, looked to the immortal girl with sympathy and pity. Layla and even Maribel were in tears themselves. Lelouch and the Autobots already had a good idea that Chera's past was something like that, she more or less hinted it to them several times before. But it was still heartbreaking to hear. Lelouch stood up from his spot and walked to the crying immortal and extended her his hand, much to her surprise. You have that now, don't you? He began. When we first met, I was the same. I was going through the motions, unable to truly live, thinking this world could never change. You helped open my eyes, showed me that I could find a reason to live just as they gave me a purpose. He looked towards Optimus specifically before looking back at her. And I wasn't the only one who changed, you did too. You're even going by your real name now, you're no longer CC. You might still be immortal, but you're still human too. We'll find a way to remove that curse from you. If there's nothing on Earth that can do it, maybe there's something out there that can. Optimus instinctively thought of Vector Sigma. Once this was all over, he could return to Cybertron and find that sacred relic of knowledge, perhaps it could give him an answer. Or at the very least, point him in the right direction. He didn't need to say it, but he wouldn't give up on Sarah either. She was one of them, and she deserved to have a life of happiness just as Lelouch and everyone else did. He would see to it she found that happiness, no matter what. Sarah gave a laugh as she wiped the tears from her eyes and accepted his hand. Who would have thought that the same pessimistic, vengeful boy would turn into such a fine man? I guess I grew up. Lelouch shrugged. A lot faster than the rest of us, that's for sure. Cornelia joked, earning some laughs and a few smirks from even Toto and Ultra Magnus. Immortal or not, you're still one of us, kid. Ironhide told her. Don't you forget it. Lelouch then smiled toward Sarah. Now, are you ready to tear it all down? To end this all together? Because we're not just doing this to deal a blow to the Decepticons, we're going to destroy Geass altogether. This power has cursed our world for too long, and it is time for it to end. Lelouch is correct, Optimus added. The thought elevators, the Geass Order, even Geass itself, it is this power that has allowed the late Charles and Megatron to commit such atrocities. Whatever reason Charles hoped to achieve with this Ragnarok, it also stands to reason that Megatron will use that to his own ends as well, and if it is truly capable of what you say it is, that is one abusive power that we absolutely cannot allow. I agree, Sarah said in agreement as she clasped Lelouch's hand with a determined expression. You're right. It's time for Geass to finally meet its end. So, we are destroying all the thought elevators, as well as the Geass Order. Is that correct? Layla asked. That is our plan. Ultra Magnus confirmed. We cannot allow even a trace of this power to continue existing, or else we run the risk of it repeating all over again. How much could the Decepticons truly achieve with just a pile of rubble? Wizard asked. With Shockwave at the helm of this study. Virtually anything, Ratchet said. Next to Megatron himself, Shockwave may be the most dangerous Decepticon to ever exist. He has absolutely no morality, no emotion, no standards, everything he does is based solely on his cold and twisted sense of logic. Ironhide added. He'll do anything to see his goals come to light, and I do mean anything. Who do you think turned Grimlock into a Dinobot? Which means, we'll expect heavy resistance. Optimus said. All of the thought elevators are located within Decepticon-controlled areas, and the Geass Order itself should be heavily guarded. That's putting it mildly. Jeremiah explained. Shockwaves turned it into a fortress. TAI, if you would, please show them. Of course. TAI brought up a three-dimensional hologram of the Geass Order, which had the appearance of a small city with cube and rectangular-shaped structures that made up the entire fortress. There was also a dome that encircled around the citadel. With defenses only rivaled by New Kaon, it is protected by a barrier that not only hides it from view but is virtually impenetrable by any kind of weapons on the outside. Jeremiah explained. That barrier is projected by an anti-ground bridge device that was previously used by Starscream and Schneisel while they were in the Chinese Federation, but it has since been moved there. There was one that was used when Steeljaw and Shin's forces attempted to attack us in the EU. Layla recalled. But we destroyed that as well. The only other one remaining is at New Kaon. Jeremiah confirmed. It prevents anyone from jumping in for a surprise attack. Clever. Toto commented. But should the shield fall, what defenses does this fortress have exactly? It has fortress-grade mounted turrets at these specific locations. Jeremiah said as several spots on the hologram lit up along the perimeter of the fortress. But should those fall, Shockwave still commands an army of Dark Pawns. There's also the Dark Fafnir which serves as the vanguard for the Citadel. And with that Driller monster as well as Nemesis Prime, those defenses are likely even stronger. Sarah noted. We're going to need a lot of firepower to bring that down. Ogi said. Actually, we won't need that much. Lelouch said, getting all their attention. For this plan to work, we need to strike all our targets at once. The Geass Order and the Thought Elevators, all at the same time. You already have a plan in place. Ultra Magnus asked. We'll have several strike teams hit each of the 5 Thought Elevators across the planet. Lelouch explained, turning to the map on the bridge's screen that showed the locations of each target. Ogi, you'll lead the Zero Squad and aerial bots to London. Ultra Magnus, you'll take the Elite Guard to Area 20 in Congo. Layla, you and the Black Wyverns along with Sideswipe, Grindcore, and Strongarm will go to the one in Euro Britannia. Toto, Maribel, the Black Dragon and Crimson Knights will go to Area 18. Ratchet, what is the status of the Wreckers? Nearly all have fully recovered, including Warpath, Wheeljack, and Nonette, with the Galician fully rebuilt, as well as the Raiden. Ratchet answered. However, Bulkhead and Rye are not yet cleared for duty and need more time to recover. Alright. Aside from them, Ironhide will take the remaining Wreckers to Antarctica. Lelouch said. Though it pained him to especially sit Rai out from this as he knew his half-brother would want to help tear this all down too, he wasn't going to put him back on the field when he wasn't ready yet. What about the Geass order itself? Wizard asked. Lelouch smiled knowingly. You, along with Optimus, Sarah, Bumblebee, Grimlock, Alice, and Orpheus will join me as we attack the order directly. Lelouch, I know that this team of yours has some of its best, with Grimlock especially being powerful, but it'll still be an uphill battle to say the least, if what Gottwald has said is true about the Geass Order's defenses. Cornelia advised. Which is why Optimus will be wielding the Star Saber and Sky Boom shield. Lelouch revealed, much to everyone's surprise. The ultimate weapon and shield of the Primes. As dangerous and as smart as Shockwave is, I doubt he has a counter for all of that. Lelouch, even with the Star Saber and Sky Boom shield providing us a valuable edge, we must also take into account the innocent lives that are being held captive against their will within the fortress. Optimus advised, one of them being Shirley's father, who helped to deliver this message to us. I know, along with Anya and Alice's friends. Lelouch replied. Where are they exactly? He asked Jeremiah. Should be right here. Jeremiah pointed to hologram, specifically one of the smaller buildings within the middle area. There's also a handful of other scientists there that previously worked with Code R, Clovis' old research team, including General Bartley. Shockwave tends to keep them all close to better keep an eye on them. Then you'll be leading an extraction team to pull them out. Lelouch told him. Sayoko, you will join and provide support. As you wish. She bowed. How do you plan on them getting past the barrier, though? Maribel asked. TAI, based on the data provided by Jeremiah, do you believe the Star Saber can shatter the barrier protecting Shockwave's fortress? Lelouch asked. After seeing it cleave through a mountain, as well as considering all the data the research team has given, yes, one hit should destabilize the entire barrier. TAI confirmed. Excellent, Lelouch said. But right before the barrier falls, one Autobot and a small group of Black Knights that'll serve as the extraction team will infiltrate the facility with that phase shifter that was retrieved from Paris. It is crucial though that the team gets to their target right when Optimus breaks through. That way, Shockwave will divert most of his forces to counter the threat, while the extraction team pulls out all the scientists and captive pilots before they're deployed. And with the barrier destroyed, they'll be able to escape via ground bridge swiftly enough. Though I'm certain the Star Saber, as well as Grimlock's raw power, will be enough to cut through most of Shockwave's forces, once the other teams destroy the thought elevators, they'll need to be transported immediately to the Geass Order where we'll overwhelm Shockwave and obliterate the entire Citadel, including the last thought elevator there. Everyone took a moment to process this plan. It had just as many moving parts as expected, nothing they would expect less from Lelouch of all people. It seemed to cover all their bases, though there were some clear risks, many of them were unavoidable. I want to ensure the best possible scenario here, Lelouch said. And this is the best way I can think of. We can't afford to wait much longer though. We have the advantage now with the Star Saber and the other relics we've acquired, but I don't expect Megatron to just sit and wait for us to come to him. He's going to find a way to level the playing field with us. You really think he has something that can counter the Star Saber? Ogi asked. If he doesn't yet, he will find something soon, Lelouch said. I have to agree. We've all seen how far Megatron is willing to go to get what he wants, including desecration. Ratchet added with a scowl. Then we must embark on this mission as soon as possible. Optimus said. Prepare all our forces to leave immediately. I too fear for what Megatron may do to counter us, as our advantage may not last forever. The Nemesis had left the Earth and was now making its way toward the planet's only moon with Megatron standing outside on the deck of the ship alongside Starscream, Thundercracker, Skybite, and Steeljaw. Earth's moon. Starscream spotted the small celestial body and looked almost reminiscently at it. The very place where our beloved Nemesis was once trapped as we guided Britannia for more than 50 Earth decades. I'm almost getting nostalgia. Nostalgia aside, I fail to see how the moon will solve our current predicament. Steeljaw pointed out. The moon is neither our solution, nor destination, Steeljaw. Megatron corrected as the Nemesis flew around and past the moon. It didn't take long for the Decepticons on top to spot what it was they were really heading toward. A large portal-like device that remained hidden behind the dark shadow casted from the other side of the orbiting moon. A space bridge. Skybite looked in surprise. Our very own. Megatron explained. The dark side of the moon is hidden from prying human eyes, and by extension, outside the Autobots' reach. I worked with Shockwave and Soundwave to specially design its frame so that the space bridge remains hidden on the moon's dark side. Thundercracker added. Come Thundercracker, Skybite. Megatron instructed. We shall travel to the one place in the galaxy which may provide us with a means of defeating Optimus Prime and Zero. Starscream, Steeljaw, you are in command until I return, but make no moves against our enemies until then. Briefly caught off guard by Megatron's willingness to give him command, Starscream grinned as he bowed. I would be honored, Master. You can count on us. Steeljaw added as he bowed as well. With that, Megatron transformed as did Thundercracker and Skybite before all three flew toward the space bridge, which quickly activated, allowing them to travel across the galaxy in mere seconds. Starscream smirked as he saw him leave. No. It's too soon for Schneisel and I to make our move. We shall wait until our Master returns and see what he's acquired. Perhaps it may serve us more. Of course, they weren't the only ones who saw them leave. Having gotten out through a duct on the side of the Nemesis, Hotshot was on one of the smaller wings on the hull of the Decepticon warship as he saw Megatron and his lackeys leave. What are they up to? Seeing as he was outside the ship, it seemed like a good opportunity to send a message as he quickly accessed his comms. Hotshot to base, Megatron has left Earth. The Khans have a space bridge behind this planet's moon. I don't know where he's going, but it can't be good. Be ready for anything. Hotshot out. He quickly turned off his comms and made his way back into the Nemesis, hoping his friends and allies heard his message. Meanwhile, back on Horai Island, Orpheus, Uldren, and Maribel sat across from Toto in a small room where the group could speak in private. It may have been last second given the mission they would embark on at any given moment, but she had to tell them. So, she did. She told them her whole story. Needless to say, Maribel and the Oz twins were more than shocked. Why you were in the Geass order? Maribel questioned. I was. Toto nodded, her head down as she couldn't even bring herself to look them in the eyes, specifically that of Uldren as she couldn't find the words to reply to her. How come I never saw you? Orpheus asked as he had the same story as her. I guess VV wanted to keep all of us separated, that way we couldn't form bonds with each other and try to escape, Toro said with a shrug. At least that's what I think, I don't know for sure. So, what's your power? Maribel asked. If I make direct eye contact, I can erase memories. Toto answered. It's not like the late emperors where he had the power to alter them, I just straight up wipe them. I was sent into the Zevon household in order to make sure that Uldren and Orpheus never met, and if they did, I would erase their memories of that very encounter. Don't ask me why, I never figured it out. One of their hundreds of little plans that all led to grand design, which we now know as Ragnarok. Did you ever do it? Orpheus asked, sparking a glance to his twin sister, whose hair had covered her features as he couldn't even read the expression she had on her face. No, she shook her head. I never had the opportunity, because you two only met after the Decepticons had taken over. Why not just do it then? Why not follow the orders you were given? Orpheus asked. Because Toto stuttered a bit before she gave her answer. Because I love Uldren, like family. She clenched her fists on her lap, keeping her head down as she couldn't face any of them. I was just following orders at first, but she showed me such kindness, treated me like I was part of her family. And somewhere down the line I actually felt like I really was part of her family. In a way I'm glad that the Decepticons destroyed it all. I know that makes me sound horrible and selfish, and maybe I am, but this was the first time tears were already falling down her eyes. I had a family. I didn't want to lose it. I'm so sorry. I know you hate me now and I don't blame you, but Toto was interrupted as Uldren leapt at her to wrap her arms around her, completely catching her off guard. I could never hate you, Toto. She couldn't believe the words that came from Uldren's mouth. I don't care where you came from, or what you were in the past. Uldren continued as she cried as well. You are my family. You, and the rest of the Glinda Knights, you're all my family, no matter what. I don't, how can you? Toto questioned. It may have been the mission you were given. Maribel spoke up next as she came up and hugged Toto too, pulling in Aldrin as well. But you chose to defy it, chose to fight alongside us, and you chose to confide in us the truth now. That alone makes you a far better person than you think you are. Orpheus stood up as well. Speaking as someone who knows what it's like to love someone, and to defy everything and everyone for their sake, I know how you feel. He placed a hand on Toto's shoulder and gave her a smile. That little prick, VV, can go suck it. Forget that mission he gave you, he's got no hold on you anymore, just as he doesn't on me. Aldrin pulled away and looked Toto in the eyes with a tearful smile. I've confronted the man took my mother away, the man I swore to kill, and I saw the eyes of someone who had nothing but regret. I may not have forgiven him, but I still gave him a chance. And considering everything you've done already, it would be unfair of me if I didn't give you one too. She reached out and caressed Toto by the face. No matter what happens, Toto, I'll always love you. We're family. And family stays together. Toto couldn't believe it. She expected Aldrin to shout and scream hateful things at her. Hell, she even thought that she might execute her right then and there. But she didn't. There was no hate or anger in her eyes, only sympathy and love. For that reason, Toto was ready to break down, but she forced her tears back as she still had something to say. Thank you. She fiercely wiped her face. And my feelings now are telling me what my next choice is. And that's part of the extraction op on the assault and the Geass order. That took all three of them by surprise. What? You can't be serious, Maribel exclaimed. I'm very serious, Toto insisted. You think you have home field advantage or something? Orpheus questioned. It's not VV's home turf anymore. The cons probably made that place into something you won't recognize. I'm aware of that, she replied. But I still have to do it. I'm not Nightmare Pilot, but I need to take part in this. If I can do something that can help bring that horrible place down once and for all, and maybe even spit in VV's eye, even that shockwaves, I have to do it. I'm sorry, but my mind is made up and you can't stop me. Toto, Aldrin looked into her eyes and saw the unwavering conviction. She was dead serious about this. That makes two of us, Orpheus said with a slight smile. I volunteered to join the assault team alongside Lelouch, Optimus, and Grimlock. As soon as I heard it from that Jeremiah Orange guy, I stepped up immediately. I would love to finally tear that god-forsaken place to the ground, so let's do it together. Deal. He offered his hand to her with a smile. Though surprised at first, Toto smiled as she clashed his hand with hers. Deal. I can't stop you, Aldrin said in reluctant acceptance. But, promise me one thing. That you'll come back. I can't lose another member of my family. Please, promise me that, Toto. Toto reached with her free hand to grasp Aldrin's as she smiled at her. I promise. With that, Aldrin pulled Toto into another hug as they both let their tears fall again. Maribel was quick to join in as well. Orpheus couldn't help but look at them with a sincere smile, that is until his sister pulled him into the group embrace too. Oh, you get in here, too, she said as all their arms wrapped around him as well, much to his surprise. What? But hey, your family, too, Aldrin said with a smile. So, you better come back as well, or I swear I'm going to chase you into the afterlife and kill you all over again. You got it, she said in between laughs and sobs. Orpheus let out a small chuckle as he, probably for the first time in his life, embraced his twin sister. I promise, sister. As the four of them shared their moment, Oygros had heard everything from around the corner. His mask was off as he smiled, happy that they were able to work things out and form such loving bonds with one another. His niece and nephew were truly happy with the friends they made, and that was enough for him. He too would be joining them on this mission, and while he couldn't control what happens with Toto and the rest of the extraction team, he would make certain that Orpheus made it back in one piece. With a solidified resolve, he'd put the mask of wizard back on once more. Yes, let us end that god-forsaken place. Together. So, these are the two humans actively working for Shockwave. Optimus noted as holographic projections of Arcvale and Mad were shown to him as well as the group of Lelouch, Ratchet, Lloyd, Rakshata, Alice, Sayoko, Sarah, and Jeremiah. Yes, Jeremiah confirmed. Colonel Mad, a former Britannian military man. Though he wasn't much of a combatant, he was a competent strategist. He's mostly in charge of the physical training for any soldiers in the Geass order. The other. Dr. Arkvale. Rakshata recognized him. You know of him? Ratchet asked. We share something of a history, though not as thorough as Lloyd's over here. She gestured to the scientist next to him. He's always been one to enhance human bodies with cybernetics. Wasn't that the field you were in? Lelouch asked. For medical purposes, Rakshata replied. He believed technology was the next stage of human evolution. Yes, he actually had the idea of turning human soldiers into nightmares. Lloyd added. Basically, putting human brains into the frames themselves. A certifiable nutjob this guy. Sarah stifled a chuckle. If you think he's crazy, then you know something's wrong. That said, if we could capture them, they would be essential sources of information. Notably of what Megatron intends to do with this Ragnarok. Optimus said. I'd be fine with just killing them. Alice said darkly, getting everyone's attention. Those two have put my friends and I through all kinds of hell. I'd love nothing more than to wring their necks. Just as Grimlock would for Shockwave. Lelouch said. I understand your anger, Alice, believe me I do. But it would be more beneficial to us if we bring them in alive. I can use my Geass to get all the information they have. That is if they do not have Geass cancelers as I do. Jeremiah said. Would have Shockwave have one as well? Optimus asked. He was the one who invented it, so highly likely. Jeremiah confirmed. Unsurprising. Ratchet rolled his eyes. Hey guys. The group turned around to see Bulkhead limp his way onto the Ark's bridge with Rye, Shirley, Nunnally, Millie, Rivals, Nina, and Misty right behind him. The green Autobot wasn't limping as bad as before, but the fact he was more or less dragging his right foot around was still noticeable. Rye, on the other hand, was looking much better. His prosthetic arm didn't seem to be doing so bad as there was no twitching or anything. We heard about what's been going on. Rye said. Looks like we're all set to leave. We'll be departing at any moment. Optimus noted. Is there something you need? Yes. Nunnally spoke up. We want to be put on the extraction team. What? Lelouch and Alice both exclaimed in surprise as Sarah, Optimus, Sayoko, and Ratchet were all more than a little shocked. Rakshata and Jeremiah looked serious while Lloyd had his casual smile. Aha, well this is quite a twist. The former Earl commented. Absolutely not. Ratchet exclaimed. You are asking to go right into heart of arguably the most dangerous place on this planet, controlled by a monster. A monster who wouldn't hesitate to turn you into one of his twisted experiments. None of you would last 10 seconds against Shockwave. Isn't that why you're luring him outside to fight him yourself? Rivals asked. That's not the point, Lelouch stated. Look, you may have helped us retrieve the phase shifter, not to mention brought in Jeremiah, both of which were instrumental to us, but that does not qualify you for a mission this dangerous. Rye, Bulkhead, you two shouldn't even be on the field yet. I'm not piloting a nightmare though. Rye replied. Just providing escort. And maybe I'm still limping, but I can still transform. Bulkhead did just that as he transformed into his vehicle mode and drove around the bridge a little bit for emphasis, showing he was steering just fine before transforming back. We'd be strapped in tightly behind 10 tons of metal muscle. We'd be pretty well protected if you ask me. Millie added. Lelouch, I know you want to protect us, but that's my father in there. Shirley said firmly. My father, whom I thought to have been dead for almost a whole year. Now I know he's alive, I have to be there. I couldn't be there for him when he was taken, now I have a chance to be there for him now. And I'll be there to make sure she's safe. Rye put his only organic arm around her, showing his full support. I promise we'll bring him back. Lelouch said. But I cannot. Please, Lelouch, you have to let us do this. Nunnally spoke up. Alice was quick to get down to the floor of the bridge and get up close to Nunnally, put her hands on her shoulders and speak up. No, 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 just no. You haven't been there. I have. It is pure hell. Nunnally, I can't even imagine the thought of you being there. With even the slightest chance of that one-eyed monster getting his hands on you. Don't you mean hand? Ya know, cause he only has one hand. Rivals tried to joke. This is not a joke. Alice screamed, causing Rivals and most of them to balk. You haven't seen what he can do, I have. As have I. Ratchet stated. Shockwave's experiments, his so-called projects, to say they are the stuff of nightmares would be a vast understatement. Just look at Grimlock or the Insecticons if you want a prime example of the horrors that he's capable of. There's also VV. Lelouch added as he too stepped down to look at his friends, brother, and sister. Nunnally, he took our mother, he took your legs, he looked at the braces that enabled her to walk. You're getting those off in just a few days. In just a few days, what was lost to us for 8 years, lost to you, will be restored. If he sees you there, he'll take more than just your legs again. And Rai, he turned to his brother, what he did to you, I already lost my mother to that monster. I don't want to lose the rest of you, any of you. He looked towards his friends. That's exactly why I have to go. Nunnally said. Because he took our mother from us, and so much more. You, everyone, you're giving your all to see these monsters get brought down. What good would I be if I just sit on the sidelines and only watch? Yes, I know I'm not a soldier, and I don't know what this shockwave is capable of. But, if I can help just a little bit, help to bring down what they built, what what our father built from all this bloodshed, she looked at Lelouch and Alice with a firm expression. I'm going. You can't stop me. You can tie me down and lock me up, but I will find a way to go. Without your permission. Same goes for the rest of us. Shirley stepped up along with rivals, Rai, Nina, Millie, and Misty, all having the same expressions as the former princess, even Bulkhead who stood behind them. I'm going to save my father, but it's not just that. We're all Black Knights here, we're the protectors of this world. It's time for us to step in and start protecting. I've even installed a special communication device in Ray's new arm on his request. Nina added. This way we can not only still communicate with him, but I can also even track his location. It would only be 2 minutes. Just go in, grab everyone, and ground bridge back. Rivals also said. In and out. Shockwave and VV won't even know what hit them. Millie said. And Toto from Maribel's group is coming with us too. I was part of the Geass order myself. Misty put in. Maybe it changed considerably the last time I was there, but I'm just as much a part of this as everyone else. The least I can do is lend a hand in bringing it down with everyone else. Lelouch, I promise, you have the word of a wrecker, an Autobot, and your friend, I'll keep everyone safe. Bulkhead said before looking to his leader. Optimus, I can do this. You're gonna need everyone in on this and you know I can help. Lelouch and Optimus shared a glance with one another, the former hoping the latter would have an answer that would make him feel more at ease. But he could tell that Optimus felt just as concerned as he was, and for good reason. Excuse me, may I say something? Jeremiah spoke up. Of course, Optimus encouraged. Maybe they're not exactly soldiers, but I've seen what these young heroes can do. Jeremiah began. I've looked into each of their eyes, especially Lady Nunnally's, and I saw a spark. The very same spark I once saw in Lady Marianne. The mention of his mother got Lelouch's attention. A spark that couldn't be put out by mere words. The spark that would drive them to complete their goal and would not stop until they were finished. Yes, they are entering what I can only describe as hell on earth, having been a victim of it myself in that regard. But, as I am part of the extraction team, I give you my word, I will help to guide them through that hell. I'll do everything in my power to see that our mutual goal is accomplished, and everyone is brought back safe. I may have failed Lady Marianne, but I will not fail her children. I will be there as well. Sayoko stepped up, putting her hand on Lelouch's shoulder to draw his gaze. Lelouch, I have protected you and your sister since you were young. I vowed that both of you would be kept safe, and I will not shirk from that. I will see to it that Nunnally and all your friends return home, safe and sound. Once again, Lelouch looked toward Optimus for an answer. His only response was a single nod, and that was all he needed. You come back, he said to all of them, especially Nunnally as he put his hands on her shoulders. You swear on our mother's grave, right here and now, that you will come back. Nunnally leapt at her brother in a hug. I promise. I swear on the grave of our mother Marianne, that I will come back to you. He didn't hesitate to hug her back. We all will. Shirley added, referring to herself and everyone else. Alice wanted to shout, no, to all of them. She wanted to scream her lungs out and do everything she could to stop them. She had the physical strength to literally hold them all back. She can even grab Nunnally and put her away somewhere safe and secure. But she knew how stubborn she was. Once Nunnally put her mind to something, there was no changing it, no matter how much she wanted. It was one of the reasons that she loved her. Suddenly, Alice's thoughts were interrupted when Nunnally hugged her as well. "Don't worry, Alice. I promise to come back to you too." Alice hugged her back. "You'd better. Or else I'll never forgive you. Do you hear me?" She nearly choked up, causing Nunnally to smile tearfully as she tightened her embrace. Ratchet looked towards Optimus, who nodded to him as well. "Very well," the Autobot medic sighed. "Bulkhead, Rye, you two are hereby cleared for duty." "Yes." Bulkhead pumped his fist as he kneeled down to share a high five with Rye, which he gave with his robotic hand to Bulkhead's finger. "Under my supervision, because I will be accompanying you," Ratchet quickly added, much to most of their surprise. "You may require a medic just in case. That, and given the number of people we'll be rescuing, you could use an extra escape vehicle." "Very kind of you, old friend." Optimus smiled, to which Ratchet smiled back. Question. Lloyd raised his hand. "I thought the phase shifter could only work for the Autobot that it's attached to. If both subjects are connected to each other at the time of the device's activation, even if it's something simple like a tether line, both should be under the effects of the phase displacement," Ratchet explained. "Oh, cool." Lloyd shrugged. "You are so casual about this," Sarah pointed out. "Hey, sociopath, remember?" he reminded with a smile. "Yes, you keep reminding us," Rakshata said with a half smirk. Everyone. TAI's holographic form suddenly appeared to them. "I just got a message from Hot Shot. Megatron and a small group of Decepticons have just left the planet. There is a space bridge hidden behind this world's moon. Though Hot Shot doesn't know exactly where Megatron is going, he thinks he's looking for something to tip the odds back in his favor." "Then we have no more time to waste," Optimus said with a determined expression. "We must begin the assault as quickly as we possibly can." A space bridge vortex had opened briefly to allow the jet modes of Megatron and Thundercracker, along with the flying shark mode of Skybite, to arrive at their destination, the dark and cold airspace of the now-dead Cybertron. What was once a mighty world, now reduced to a graveyard. The broken and ruined city beneath the trio of flying Decepticons was nothing short of heartbreaking. "Our home," Skybite muttered. He remembered how often he would be looked down upon and ridiculed for being a Sharkticon, a creation of the Quintessence. One of the few survivors and left behind by the greedy creators after their invasion was repelled by the Cybertronians before the Great War. He saw Megatron in the gladiatorial arena, as well as all his speeches and vows to change Cybertron and demand that all of their kind be treated as equals. That is what made Skybite want to follow him in the first place. Even before war broke out, when he approached his soon-to-be leader with the desire to join him, hoping that he would have a future in the new Cybertron, despite being a Sharkticon, that he'd stand among this world's populace as an equal. And to his delight, Megatron accepted him. Even when war began, Skybite didn't hesitate to follow his leader into battle, hoping that the new Cybertron would be reborn from the ashes of conflict. But sadly, it didn't come to be. All Skybite had left now was his duty to his leader. "Seeing it like this, it makes my spark darken," the flying Sharkticon said. "Cybertron may be lost to us, Skybite. But a new future awaits us, one grander than ever before," Megatron proclaimed as they flew toward a familiar ruined city that Thundercracker recognized. "Wait a moment, this is Yakin. What are we doing here?" the Blue Seeker questioned. Megatron didn't give an answer right away until they arrived at the Hall of Records, now a broken and ruined building before he transformed and landed on the ground, his subordinates following his head. "Orion Pax and Alpha Trion would often bring me here, to try and teach me the lessons of Cybertron's past," Megatron explained as they entered the broken building. "I admit, much of it was quite fascinating. But there was one particular place that the former Prime showed me that caught my interest, the one place that will now grant us what we seek. The means to obliterate our enemies once and for all." It took some time, but Megatron led Thundercracker and Skybite into the basement of the Hall of Records, specifically to a vault door that looked as if it hadn't been opened in a very long time. Using his strength, Megatron was able to pry open the door and force it to the side, allowing the three to enter the room. All that was in it was a metal sarcophagus attached to the floor. "This is a tomb," Skybite realized. Not just any. This is a tomb of one of the original 13. Megatron revealed as they entered the room. Liege Maximo, one of the few who had any remains to bury, at least according to Alpha Trion. Lord Megatron, I know what you said, and I do see the logic here, but there are valid reasons here as to why I don't believe that this will work. Thundercracker began. First off, it's only a hand. The hand of a Cybertronian long since dead. Even if he was a Prime in the past, his spark has faded eons ago. Perhaps a Prime's spark is what's needed to activate the forge. There's also the fact that this body is quite old. Skybite added. Its remains may too rusted, too corroded for you to properly use. That dark energon flows through my veins will remedy that. Megatron replied. Once this limb makes contact with my own body, the dark energon's regenerative properties restore what has been lost. And that's another thing, Thundercracker said. What if the dark energon corrupts the link to the Prime? I may not be an expert on the Primes, but you know I've studied dark energon for years alongside Starscream, even during the war before we sided with you. The so-called blood of Unicron could prevent you from properly using the forge. Thundercracker may have a point, my liege. Skybite put in. I know that desperate times call for desperate measures, but there are many valid points here as to why this may not even work. Your points are noted, and I do see the logic myself. Megatron granted. But time is not on our side. The greater risk is doing nothing at all, in which we give Optimus and Zero all the more reason to destroy us. Thundercracker and Skybite shared concerning glances. Despite both their protests, they also knew that if they had to have any chance at winning this war, they had to take such risks, even with the odds being against them. Alright. Thundercracker accepted as he got on end of the sarcophagus with Skybite on the other. With their combined strength, they were able to move the top of it to the side and open the coffin, revealing what was left of Liege Maximo inside. His body was a faded green color, his remains were indeed rusted and corroded. But what stood out the most was how this body no longer had a head. But that didn't matter to Megatron. Both hands were still here, and that was all he needed. Drawing his blade, Megatron severed the right arm before reaching out to take it. The Geass order on Earth, while it wasn't nearly as big as the more recent base Shockwave had back on Cybertron that surrounded the Spacebridge Tower, as well as the Insecticon hive that lay beneath it, the Citadel itself was quite impressive. A series of metallic buildings all made up the area on the surface that was constantly protected by a barrier that shielded it from visible sight, all other forms of detection, as well as an offensive assault. Within each structure was one of many small experiments that Shockwave's automatic systems currently conducted and catalogued. However, the central project that he had spent most of his devoted time toward was underground, at the very center of the Citadel and underneath all the structures. The thought elevator looked exactly like the ones that were at Kaname Island and Pendragon before both were destroyed. A tall door-like object embedded in the wall with ancient hieroglyphics on it, as well as the faded emblem of a Geass on it. Shockwave himself had stepped toward the object that was slightly taller than even him as he observed it, caressing his metallic fingers from his only hand down its surface for a moment before making his most recent log. Project Log 947. Study of the thought elevators has yielded promising results. While their origins still remain a mystery, I believe I have gained a perfect understanding as to how they function. Geass itself connects to the individual's mind, whether be it the power that is used by its wielder, or the recipient. These thought elevators appear to be the source of the energy that is known as Geass, perhaps this is where the power originated from. However, the origins of Geass and thought elevators are irrelevant. With the ability to connect to one's mind, comes the ability to manipulate their will and even sentience. Lord Megatron's plan for Neo Ragnarok nears completion. Soon, the concept of conflict itself will be erased entirely. After returning from Cybertron to the Nemesis, Megatron had brought his acquisition to Knockout's laboratory. The severed hand of Liege Maximo was now in a tank filled with a special kind of nanotech solution that would clean and restore much of its internal nervous components, though Megatron was certain that once it was attached to him, and his own dark energon flowed through the limb, it would quickly be restored. Megatron had told Knockout what he wanted from him, and while it was within his capabilities, it was arguably the most unusual procedure that he had done yet. "Yes, I can do it, Lord Megatron. If you're certain that's what you really want," Knockout said to his leader as he laid down on the procedure table. Like nothing I've ever desired before, Doctor. Megatron confirmed. I shall induce stasis. Knockout was prepared to put him to sleep. No. Megatron ordered. I wish to bear witness as you attach my new appendage. Though a bit disturbed by that request, Knockout did as requested as he placed a firm hand on Megatron's right arm. Just one thing to note, this is the arm your fusion cannon is attached to. Given how old your new one will be, I'm uncertain if I'll be able to properly connect it. Should this work as I envision, reattachment of my cannon will be a simple manner. Now, begin, Megatron told him. Coming up, Knockout converted his free hand into its buzzsaw as he began to cut away, causing Megatron to wince slightly, but he would bear witness to this. He would endure all the pain, for it will be all the worth if as he sees the looks of terror in Optimus, Lelouch, and all their friends as he finally brings them to their knees. Sitting behind cover of a large dune, the group consisting of Optimus Prime, who had the Star Saber and Sky Boom shield on his back, Grimlock, Bumblebee, Zero, Sarah, Alice, Orpheus, and Wizard were ready and waiting, with the humans having respective nightmares with the Shinkiro, Pink Akatsuki, Pegasus, Byakuin, and Agravain. We're in position, Zero said as his nightmares screen picked up the small desert mountain that was just beyond this dune. One quick scan, and he could see that it was all hologram protecting their target. Extraction team, report in. This is the extraction team. We're ready to move in at any moment. Ratchet informed. The second that barrier goes down, you go in. Just a quick in and out. Zero reminded. Understood. Ratchet replied before signing off. Optimus to base, the Autobot leader contacted their headquarters. We are ready to begin the assault on your mark. Understood Optimus. Euphemia stood at the bridge of the Ark alongside Kagaya, Claus, Fixit, Lloyd, Rakshata, Cecile, Diethard and all the other military officers below them monitoring the entire operation that would soon be occurring all around the world. All teams, be ready for deployment. She spoke over the communications to the assembled teams just outside the Ark. The moment Optimus and Zero begin their attack, you'll all use ground bridges to get to your respective locations. You'll go in, destroy the thought elevators and report your status, and we'll bring you right back. Acknowledged. Obi reported. Ready for deployment. Ultra Magnus signed on. Understood. Toto responded. Roger. Layla reported. Ready. Ironhide added. Everything is set. Kagaya said. All teams are ready to move in on our mark. Well, who gets the honors of giving the go-ahead? Claus asked. Considering it was the late Britannian Emperor basically manipulated his entire country into staging World War in order to get his hands on all this occult stuff, it's only fitting one of his kids should have the honor of destroying it all. Lloyd said. Especially when this one in particular was against his ideals from the beginning. Rakshata added. So, I suppose it all comes full circle. Well then Euphemia. Fixit asked. Shall we begin? That was right. She had always been against Britannia's oppressive and destructive regime, though she never did voice her opinion because of the grip her father had on everyone, and that most of her siblings were in favor of all of this as well. But now, she was part of something more, something bigger than Britannia ever was, something that would prove Charles Z. Britannia wrong and show the world that peace and coexistence was possible. And it begins with the destruction of Geass itself. With a firm resolve, Euphemia gave the order. Go. Finally, Grimlock stated as their team received the order. Optimus drew the Star Saber as he and everyone else stood up from behind their cover, the bright blue sword glowing brightly. Optimus then raised the mighty weapon and, with a powerful yell, and as much strength as he could muster, Optimus swung the Star Saber downward, sending a vertical wave of the bright energy straight forward. When it looked like it was about to impact the mountain, the wave struck something else that caused not only the hologram of the mountain itself to vanish, but also reveal the barrier that surrounded the Geass Order, as well as creating a massive crack that caused the entire barrier to collapse and reveal the fortress beneath it. Optimus wasn't done yet though. As he charged forward, Bumblebee, the Shinkiro, Grimlock, the Pegasus, the Byakuin, and the Agravain, all beside or above him, the Autobot leader swung the Star Saber again to send another wave forward which blasted away the frontmost part of the fortress, shaking the entire Geass Order and causing the alarm to sound off. On the other side of the now exposed fortress, Bulkhead's vehicle mode drove forward, with Ratchet's ambulance mode right behind him, connected via a steel cable. Jeremiah sat in Bulkhead's driver's seat with Rai in the passenger seat next to him. Sayoko, Nunnally, and Shirley all sat in the back, while Millie, Rivals, Misty, and Toto were in Ratchet's ambulance. "There's our distraction. Hang on, kids," Bulkhead told the group as the phase shifter, connected to his hood, activated. A ground bridge portal opened above the ruined city of London, specifically above the River Thames where the devastated Tower Bridge once was. The flying Decepticons patrolling the area didn't get a chance to radio this in as the aerial bots, Silverbolt, Jetfire, and Windblade were the first to open fire and destroy the flyers. OG's Gawain Narian was in the air alongside the hovering Autobots as they transformed, while the Gurren, RC, the Lancelot, and Alita went straight toward the river. "Alright, the aerial bots and I will keep things covered up here. You guys destroy the thought elevator," Ogi ordered. "Got it," RC replied. "Leave it to us," Alita answered. "This shouldn't take long," Suzaku stated. "Be careful, Ogi," Colin told him. All four dove into the water as the four in the air began to form a perimeter around the river to ensure nobody interfered. The Inga Falls on the Congo River, as well as the surrounding African jungle, seemed undisturbed for the most part. The only things that stood out was the battalion of Viacon guards all around the area surrounding the waterfalls. Suddenly a ground bridge portal opened behind the Viacon that stood at the top of the falls before the vehicle mode of Ultra Magnus slammed into him to ram him off the falls. The other Viacons were quickly alerted as the Florence Nero, customized Vincent's piloted by Cornelia and Chigusa respectively, and Guilford's Akatsuki flew above the falls and quickly shot down all the Viacons that were furthest away from the falls. At the same time, Geass, Prowl, and Smokescreen had appeared by Magnus' side as they used their respective Energon blasters to gun down the remaining Viacons, right before Smokescreen himself jumped down off the falls to land on the last Viacon before gunning him down. "Commander Magnus, the area is secure," Guilford reported. "We must move quickly," Ultra Magnus instructed. "Geass, Khrushchevsky, enter the falls and destroy the target. The rest of us will cover you." "Got it." Geass saluted as he and the Florence Nero went straight into the falls while everyone else worked to establish a perimeter around the area. The Lut Desert, also known as the Emptiness Plain, was a desert and conquered Britannian area of Area 18 before the Decepticons took over. Most of the area had been mined and excavated for Energon, with a particularly large tunnel that was dug into one of the desert mountains that blanketed this general area. Like the others, this area was guarded by a group of Viacons. The quiet was quickly brought to a halt by the sudden appearance of a ground bridge as Drift's vehicle mode, along with the 12 nightmares that made up the combined group of the Black Dragon and Crimson Knights, all piloted and owned by Toto, Maribel, Shink, Chiba, Senba, Asahina, Ashley, Uldren, Sokia, Leonhardt, Makira, and Jean all entered the scenes. Guns fired and swords were unsheathed as the nightmares flew and rolled across the area, quickly cutting down any Decepticon that got in their way. They had to be quick to cut off any alerts, but even then, they couldn't take their time. "Alright, let's keep this area secure. Nobody gets in or out," Maribel ordered. "Drift, we'll neutralize the thought elevator," Toto ordered. "Very well." Drift accepted as he and the Zangetsu drove down the tunnel within the desert mountain. The Russian mountains were exactly what one would expect. Cold, with the tall natural mountains covered in ice and snow. The terrain was rather rough, so the Viacon patrol mostly consisted of helicopters and fighter jets. However, one helicopter mode was quickly shot down before a fighter jet followed, and so did many others before the other Viacons realized what was going on. The perpetrator was none other than Yukiya in his Alexander Valiant with his long-ranged rifle. He saw the remaining flyers coming down right toward him, which only caused him to smirk. "Yeah, that's right. Keep your eyes on me." Suddenly, the Tristan Divider shot out from the cloud cover below to fly up and cut down two jet Viacons before coming up from behind and firing its Harkins, which came together to form an energy cannon that obliterated the others. "Who would have thought a Knight of the Round in action would actually be a good thing for us?" Ryo commented as the other Alexanders of the Black Wyvern squad, along with Sideswipe, Strongarm, and Grimlock appeared together around a cave that led into the innards of one of the tallest mountains. "We got things out here, you guys go on ahead," Ayano said. "Understood." Layla nodded. "Akito, Sideswipe, you two are with me." "Yes." Akito nodded firmly. Sure you don't mind the third wheel? Sideswipe teased, causing Layla to blush. Let me know if you see anything in there that needs punching. Grindcore said as the two Alexanders and Sideswipe entered the cave. A group of Viacons marched across the thick ice of Antarctica, standing right next to a large cliff. The one Viacon that was closest to said cliff noticed a shadow over him, causing him to look up in time to see the falling Wheeljack, wielding both his swords, come down to swiftly decapitate him before landing dramatically on the ice below. Wrecker fact number 17, guards never look up. Wheeljack smirked as he drew the attention of the Viacons, who immediately opened fire on him as he used his swords to dodge and parry. With their attention focused on Wheeljack, they failed to notice that one by one, they were all sniped in the head by Chromia, who remained perched on the cliffside. It didn't take long for all the Viacons to kill Chromia, and the remainder of the wreckers, consisting of Ironhide. Warpath leapt down from the cliffside with Nonet's Galashan and Tamaki's wrecker Akatsuki hovering down beside them. "Aw man, I so wanted to try out this new cannon the docs gave me," Warpath commented, gesturing to his new chest cannon that resembled more like that of a modern-day tank with Cybertronian features. "You can get your chance when you blow the thought elevator," Ironhide told him. "You and Tamaki go ahead, while the rest of us guard things from up here." "Yeah, now we're talking." Tamaki grinned. "Rai may not be here, but I'm gonna blow that damn thing to Kingdom Come for his sake." He fired his wrecker Akatsuki's rockets into the ice, blowing a hole into the deep water below as he drove his nightmare downward with Warpath leaping in right behind him. "Hey, why are there so few of us on this team?" Nonet asked. "Not that I'm complaining, but the other teams are rather big." "Because Antarctica is barren," Chromia answered. "Unlike the other spots that are in mostly Decepticon territory, they need a bit of a larger escort to cover them. Hopefully we can get this done quickly enough," Ironhide said. "I don't trust Megatron or Shockwave to leave stuff like this completely unguarded." "Don't worry about it, old-timer," Wheeljack assured. "And worst-case scenario, I get chance to break in this new arm." He moved his replacement limb around for emphasis, which looked exactly like his old one. Nobody would even know the difference. Back at the Geass Order, 4 large and heavy-grade turrets, all automated, had appeared on several of the buildings and quickly locked onto the approaching intruders. "We have incoming," Zero warned. "Those are fortress-grade turrets," Grimlock stated. "Just one of those could punch a hole in a ship. Get behind me, now," Optimus ordered as they stopped their advance, the Autobot leader drawing the Sky Boom shield as he stood at the helm. The turrets all fired powerful spheres of destructive energy that shot right at the group. With the Sky Boom shield in hands, Optimus channeled its power as its surface glowed the same kind of blue that emanated from the Star Saber before an energy barrier extended around himself and the entire team to encase them in a dome just as the blasts made contact. Boom! Asterisk. A massive explosion encompassed the entire area. The smoke would soon clear, revealing that the barrier generated by the Sky Boom shield, and the group inside, were completely unfazed. Keeping the Sky Boom shield in his left hand, he drew the Star Saber in his right hand as Optimus Prime swung it again, creating a horizontal arc of energy that struck the base of the 2 towers near the center, causing them to fall along with the turrets stationed at the top. The Shinkiro and Agravain flew out towards the sides as they engaged the furthermost turrets simultaneously. Wizard aimed his Nightmare's Hadron cannons at the base of the turret and fired. The blast struck that area near the top of the tower, causing it to explode before the massive gun on top fell and would crash on the ground beneath it. Zero aimed the Shinkiro's central cannon and fired straight at the remainder turret, which carved through the barrel at the back containing the Energon, as Lelouch had planned. The whole turret exploded soon after. "Hey, save some for the rest of us," Bumblebee joked. "You'll get your wish," Orpheus said seriously. "Yeah, Shockwave's got plenty more horrors awaiting us," Alice said as well. "Bring it on," Grimlock growled. "I'll tear through all of them to get to Shockwave, then I'll rip him to pieces." Shockwave walked through the underground tunnel as he saw from a holographic screen on his turret arm the situation outside. Nearly all the outer defenses had been destroyed, but what really drew his attention were the glowing sword and shield in Optimus' possession. The Star Saber and the Sky Boom shield. Shockwave noted. This may indeed be a challenge, with or without Grimlock. He then accessed his communications. Nemesis Prime, Dark Queen, Dark Fafnir, deploy immediately. Arkvale, Mad, prepare. He stopped for a brief moment as the ground around him shook just before the driller monster appeared underneath him, seemingly consuming shockwave but rather just placing him within the safety of its insides before burrowing back down to head out. Meanwhile, Joseph Finette, General Bartley, and a number of other scientists were being held in a tall room, one big enough to hold a group of Cybertronians. Even deep within the fortress, they could feel the sounds of battle outside, the former Britannian general looking the most terrified. What in God's name is happening out there? Bartley exclaimed in a panic. Joseph held his locket deep in his pocket, looking toward the ceiling, hoping beyond hope that it was their salvation. Or at least righteous judgment on this horrible place and the monsters that were in control of it. Suddenly, a green truck phased through a nearby wall, with an ambulance connected by a steel cable right behind it. The captive humans were all startled as they looked in surprise to see the two vehicles enter the room without causing any damage whatsoever. Hey, anybody need a pickup? Bulkhead asked as his and Ratchet's doors opened up, allowing their passengers to step out. Autobots. Here. Bartley didn't know whether or not he should celebrate. On one hand, it looked like they were here to save them. But on the other, they were Britannia's greatest enemy and one of the reasons why it fell. Joseph however was beyond glad to see these two Autobots as they transformed to reveal themselves in all their glory. So much so that he didn't even notice a certain someone until she spoke to him. Daddy. All time stopped in an instant for him as he recognized that voice. His heart almost stopped beating as he looked with wide and circular eyes to see the brunette hair and green eyes of his teenage daughter. Her eyes were just as wide as his, so much emotion reflecting in both of them. This was the first time any of them had seen each other in what felt like an eternity. Shirley had, for a long time, thought her father was dead. But now, here he was. Very much alive. Shirley. Hearing her father say her name was enough for her to break out in a sprint towards him, where he opened up his arms to welcome her embrace. Both held each other so tightly, afraid the other would disappear if they let go as tears fell from both their eyes. Daddy, you're alive, you're alive. I'm here, my sweet little girl. My Shirley, I'm here. Nunnally, Millie, Misty, and Toto were moved to tears at such a reunion. Even Sayoko had to wipe a single tear from her own eye while Rivals struggled to keep them back and maintain his tough guy expression. Rai couldn't contain his own tears, nor did he bother, seeing his beloved Shirley in the arms of her father, the very man that he felt responsible for his supposed death. It made him feel beyond happy for them. He happened to glance up to Bulkhead, who gave an encouraging smile. Even Ratchet couldn't help but give a smile himself. How are you all even? The stunned Bartley couldn't form a complete sentence. That would be thanks to me. Jeremiah revealed himself, much to Bartley's shock. Joseph, while still holding onto his daughter, opened his teary eyes as he smiled towards Jeremiah, who gave a nod back. Jeremiah, I had thought you were destroyed. Bartley stated. Your signal went offline on your last mission. All part of the illusion. Jeremiah explained. And we don't have time to go into the details. Nunnally said, stepping forward. Shirley, I'm very happy for you, but we need to leave. Of course, Shirley wiped the tears from her eyes as she and her father let go. You're right, Nunnally. Dad, there's so much I want to say to you. It's okay, Shirley. Joseph nodded with a smile. We'll have all the time in the world to catch up. Wait a minute, did she just say, Nunnally? Bartley got a good look at the girl. The sandy brown hair and violet eyes that looked so familiar. He then remembered when he served under Clovis and saw the paintings of his deceased half-siblings. That's when he recognized her. Princess Nunnally v Britannia. Why you're alive. She no longer refers to herself as such. Sayoko stepped forward firmly in between Nunnally and the fat general. Simply, Nunnally, will do. Wait, she's really the princess. Even Joseph was caught off guard. There is no time for any of this. Ratchet stated. We must leave now before Shockwave or anyone else notices our presence. Wait, hold on a sec, Doc. Bulkhead looked around. Aren't we missing some people? Everyone else got a chance to look around as well before they noticed it too. Yeah, where's Anya? Rivals asked. What of Alice's friends? Misty asked as well. Rai couldn't explain it, but a pit formed in his stomach as he got a bad feeling about all this. Something's not right. Back outside, after dealing with the last of the defenses, Sarah flew on ahead in her pink Akatsuki. I'll scout the area from the sky. Be careful, Lelouch told her. However, she didn't get very far as her nightmare's sensors picked up an incoming object. Jerking back her Akatsuki just in time, something big and fast shot up from one of the Order's buildings. She looked in shock to see what it was that was flying above her. It was the frame of Nemesis Prime, but it was different than before. Installed in various parts of its body, such as its back, shoulders, forearms and the back of its legs, were a total of 7 red crystal-like objects that had a red electric aura being produced by them, connecting to each crystal to form a sort of energy field around it which enabled the body to fly. I've got you now, CC. Victor. Sarah knew it was him. She flew back to try and regroup with her friends, Nemesis Prime flying after her. And he wasn't the only one. 2 other rooftops opened up as the Dark Fafnir and Dark Queen unit flew up into the sky and entered the fray. Meanwhile, the ground surrounding the rest of the team began to shake and shift. Though the Shinkiro, Agravain, Pegasus, and Byakuin were all airborne, Optimus, Grimlock, and Bumblebee were suddenly knocked into the air by a powerful tremor-like force that sent them all flying backwards and tumbling across the sand. Emerging from the desert ground was none other than the Driller monster, unveiled in all its unholy glory. Lelouch and the others had their eyes widened in shock. This was the first time they saw it. That's the Driller, Orpheus muttered. It's a whole lot bigger than I thought it would be. Lelouch's attention was then caught by Chera's approaching pink Akatsuki with Nemesis Prime flying right behind her. A glare formed on his face as he fired the Shinkiro's Hadron cannons at Nemesis Prime, who halted his chase to bring his arms together, causing the electric barrier around him to surge even more and act as a makeshift shield and block the attack. We have incoming, Alice warned as the Dark Fafnir and Dark Queen appeared, the former firing a bombardment of missiles, forcing the Flying Nightmare to fall back and avoid the resulting onslaught. Several missiles converged down on the Autobots, but Optimus was able to use a barrier from the Sky Boom shield to block all of that as well. The Shinkiro, Optimus, Pink Akatsuki, Bumblebee, Pegasus, Byakuin, Agravain, and Grimlock all grouped together as they faced off against the hovering Nemesis Prime, Dark Queen, Dark Fafnir, as well as the Driller that encircled around them, its face emerging from the front near the flying enemies, its mouth opening up as the Decepticon scientist at the head of all of this revealed himself. Shockwave. Grimlock's eyes were already burning with rage. Welcome to my base of operations. Shockwave greeted in his usually cold fashion. An attack on the central Geass order was expected and logical. He looked toward the Shinkiro in particular. I am assuming that Nightmare belongs to Zero, an alias for Lelouch v Britannia, also known as Lelouch Lamperouge, former Prince of Britannia turned leader of the Black Knight's Resistance Army, ally and partner to Optimus Prime and the Autobots. This is the first time we've ever met, and yet I know all there is to know of you. That's so. Lelouch's eyes narrowed back. This too was the first time he saw Shockwave face to face. He had heard the horror stories from the other Autobots what this so-called scientist was like and how far he would take his experiments. Needless to say, it was hate at first sight for him. Such as how you and your sister, Nunnally, attended the now destroyed Ashford Academy. Shockwave went on. Alongside Colin Kazuki, Suzaku Kururugi, Millie Ashford, Rivals Cardamond, Nina Einstein, and Shirley Finette, the daughter of Joseph Finette, one of the human scientists under my supervision, of which his daughter and a band of Autobots and Black Knights now attempt to rescue at this very moment. Lelouch gasped as the eyes and optics of the rest of his team all widened in shock. Suddenly, multiple energy turrets appeared along the walls, and they all aimed at the extraction team and the captives, much to their shock. Incoming. Bulkhead warned as the turrets opened fire, blasting energon all over the place. Bartley was unfortunately caught up in a blast and incinerated, as were a couple other scientists. Fortunately, Bulkhead was able to shield Nunnally, Shirley, her father, and the rest of the humans, using his bulky body to cover them as Ratchet went to the nearest wall. His arms converted into blades to slice off the turrets before moving to the wall next to him and doing the same, repeating the process as all the turrets were quickly dispatched. What the heck was that? Rivals exclaimed. Bulkhead, are you okay? Rai asked with concern, the green Autobot standing up once the onslaught was done. Peachy. Bulkhead said, ignoring that his back was smoking a bit. "Welcome to the Geass Order." A familiar voice greeted over the speakers in the area, alerting everyone. "It'll be the last place you ever visit." "Who is that?" Millie asked, but Jeremiah and Joseph both recognized it. "Arkvale." The latter's fists clenched. "Ah, Jeremiah, so good to see you again." Arkvale greeted as he sat in a separate room, his cybernetic brain hooked up via cables to a giant machine attached to the ceiling, one that projected several holographic screens of various locations all around the Order, including the chamber where the extraction team was located. "I'd say I'm surprised to see you alive again, only I'm not." Arkvale continued. "Shockwave sends his regards, by the way." Upon realizing they were caught, Ratchet tried to call for an evac. "Extraction team to base. We need a ground bridge." He was cut off as all he got from the other end was static. "Don't bother calling for help," Arkvale said. "Your communications are currently being blocked. You know what's so great about those thought elevators? They also serve as a pretty good power source, particularly for the communications jammers that were established at each one to prevent all your friends from calling in any backup or evacuations, all while the other headmasters and our forces are intercepting them as we speak." London. At the bottom of the River Thames, just as RC, Alita, the Gurren, and the Lancelot reached the thought elevator that had been excavated from the riverbed, they found their way blocked by Anya Alstrheim in the Dark Mordred, who was accompanied by 2 Dark Pawns. But unlike the other Dark Pawns they've seen before, these 2 had a red glow to them that was emanating from their featureless heads, as well as their inner parts underneath the outer armor. The very same type of new flying Dark Pawns that made up a group of 5 that was now engaged with the aerial bots and Ogi above the river in aerial combat. Anya. Suzaku's eyes widened in shock once he saw her nightmare. "I am sorry, to all of you," Anya said tearfully. "But this is the end of the line for you." She fired her Dark Mordred's Hadron cannons. Congo. Ultra Magnus and Smokescreen fired at the 2 flying Dark Pawns, that were also glowing red, all moving at insane speeds and literally flying circles around them, while Prowl, Cornelia, Guilford, and Chigusa were forced on the defensive as 4 more of these glowing red Dark Pawns engaged each of them. At the same time, Monica's Florence Nero and Jazz had found the thought elevator that was at the back of an excavated tunnel behind the Inga Falls, but they weren't alone. Standing guard beside the thought elevator was the Order Headmaster unit piloted by Sancha. "Anybody else smell a setup?" Jazz grumbled. Area 18. Maribel grunted as her nightmare was knocked out of the sky by a speeding red Dark Pawn. The 6 others that were accompanying it were engaging the rest of the combined unit of the Black Dragon and Crimson Knights, but they were flying and moving so fast that any shot fired missed completely. Inside the tunnel, having already reached the thought elevator there, Toto and Drift were both forced back by the relentless onslaught of heavy machine gun fire from Lucretia's Land Headmaster unit. Russian mountains. Gino's Tristan Divider brought its right blade toward a flying red Dark Pawn, but it swiftly avoided his slice before kicking him back, knocking him toward the mountain where Ayanos Alexander came to cover him as Yukias and Strongarm tried to shoot down 2 other flying Dark Pawns, but they too were moving faster than normal while airborne. Grindcore swung his massive fists towards one on the ground, but it was able to easily dodge his strike before moving behind him to deliver a flying kick to the back and knock him down. Sideswipe and Ryo were both forced back to back as they each faced off against a glowing red Dark Pawn of their own. Inside the cave, Layla and Akito were understandably scared as they came face to face with the Thanatos unit that kept them from advancing any closer to the thought elevator that served as their target. "I'm sorry Akito, but this is where we finally part ways." The cybernetic Shin Hyuga Shang grinned evilly. Antarctica. Chromia attempted to shoot down a flying red Dark Pawn, but it was too fast to even get a lock on with her rifle. Another one tried to ambush her from behind, but the Galician flew to try and intercept it with a point-blank blast from its Varus, but that pawn easily avoided the blast before pushing Nonet's Nightmare into Chromia, knocking them both down. Ironhide fired his cannons at a flying red Dark Pawn that flew ever closer to him, flying at such speeds that when the Dark Pawn rammed into him, Ironhide was sent flying into the cliffside. Wheeljack couldn't even find an opportunity to strike back at the one he faced, using his swords to block and parry, and even then, he couldn't block all of it and was literally backed into a corner. Meanwhile, underwater, Tamaki and Warpath did manage to find the thought elevator they were looking for. But it was unfortunately guarded by Dalk in her power headmaster unit. "Aw scrap," Tamaki muttered. Meanwhile, back at the Geass Order, Colonel Mad was in the same kind of room that Arkvale was, albeit separate, as his body was hooked to a similar device via wires and cables that attached to his head and spinal cord. He too had multiple holographic screens around him, only these ones showed all the ongoing battles at the various thought elevators. That red energon the Combaticons secured was quite impressive. Mad said sinisterly. Unfortunately, we only had so little that we could manage a single dose for an individual that would only last about 5 minutes. However, Shockwave was able to use that sample and combine it with the formula for his synthetic energon formula to create a new substance. Although this doesn't provide hyperspeed as natural red energon does, our new formula does provide the dark pawns with twice the speed and reaction time as before, making them even more deadly. And it is that very formula, now converted into raw energy, that allows our Nemesis Prime to fly and granting it greater speed and power than before. And the best part, they aren't simple drones. I control them all with a thought from this very center. Now go, my red pawns. Wipe this scum from the face of the earth. Mad ordered as he laughed with such insanity and jubilation. What the hell is going on out there? Claus questioned as multiple alerts were picked up at each of the locations. They had even lost visual contact as all the screens turned to static. We're being jammed. We can't even pick up any signals. Ally or enemy. Communications are unresponsive. This interference is too strong. It's not from a normal jamming process. Can we pull them out? Kagaya questioned. Send a ground bridge to bring everyone out. No. Any attempt to lock on is blocked. We can't open a single ground bridge. Euphemia shook with fear as she, Diethard, Lloyd, Fixit, Rakshata, and Cecile all looked more than a little worried. They were waiting for us, Rakshata said in clear nervousness. I don't know how, but they were. This whole thing is a trap, Diethard stated. Yeah, we're in trouble, Lloyd gulped. The walls all around Bulkhead, Ratchet, and the rest of Extraction Team, as well as the remaining scientists, all opened up to reveal the rest of the Geass Order's internal structures, comprising of hundreds of machines far too advanced for anyone to describe, with the exceptions of countless mounted guns that appeared nearly everywhere and aimed directly at them. Time to bail. Bulkhead quickly transformed, as did Ratchet, before everyone quickly rushed to pile into the two Autobots' vehicle modes. A cable shot from Ratchet's front and magnetized to Bulkhead's rear as the phase shifter activated and they drove off, right as the guns opened fire. Fortunately, all the blasts appeared to phase right through them as they literally drove through everything. Run. Run as fast and as far as you can. You'll never escape this place. Arkvale laughed through the speakers. But it'd be fun to watch you try. Cute even. Lelouch, Optimus, Bumblebee, Alice Orpheus, Oegros, and Chera's eyes all widened in horror and absolute shock, while Grimlock seethed with rage. Shockwave had basically told them everything as he and his creations all faced the intruders. Your plan to divide and conquer, to neutralize the thought elevators and destroy the Geass Order in one strike, was very logical. Shockwave acknowledged. And yet, quite predictable. Your allies all over the world, even those within my headquarters, they will not survive this. Then we'll just have to do this the hard way. Grimlock transformed into his T-Rex mode and unleashed his fire breath on the driller that descended upon him. This is it, Lelouch, Optimus. VV began as he sneered inside the hovering Nemesis Prime. For your crimes against me and my brother, for your very sin of existing, for the sake of my vengeance, his robotic body surged with an intense red electric aura from his newly built tin crystal generators. You will die today. Nemesis Prime roared as he shot forward, the Dark Queen right beside him while the Dark Fafnir launched a volley of missiles. In response, the Shinkiro and Agravain fired its long-range weapons while Bumblebee, Alice's Pegasus, and Chera's Akatsuki charged forward as Optimus held the Star Saber in one hand and the Sky Boom shield in the other, his optics narrowing with his weapons glowing brightly. Walking into the vault on his warship that contained the Forge of Solus Prime, Megatron approached the mighty hammer that hadn't even been touched since its acquisition some time ago. Ever since then, it's just sat there on the table and gathered dust. But that was about to change. Megatron took a moment to feel his new appendage. His original right arm had been severed at the joint near the elbow and replaced with that of Liege Maximo. True to his intent, Thanks to the regenerative properties of the dark energon within his veins, his new arm looked just that, brand new. He felt his fingers and could feel this arm as if it were his very own. Ah, yes. The leader of the Decepticons chuckled as he reached forward to grab the forge with his new limb. The second the stolen hand made contact with the forge, it activated. Its inner mechanisms moved for perhaps the first time in eons while energy sparked from inside. Megatron lifted the active forge high above his head as he couldn't contain his excitement. At long last, the power of the primes belongs to me. And this at the end of Season 2 Part 14 of this What If. Hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.